Chapter 2054. Fluff vs. Petals 3. However, what they wanted to know more was why Song had changed his mind. Previously, Azure had only promised to be responsible for holding off Fog Phoenix. They would have to do it themselves. However, they didn't expect that not only would Azure not do that, but he would also directly ask for the petals from Fog Phoenix. This fact made them puzzled. Azure's thoughts were too hard to guess. In fact, the reason why Azure had given up on his original plan and chose to directly ask for the petals from Rhyme was that he felt that Rhyme was too slow in doing things. He was a little angry. Moreover, he hoped that this matter could be resolved as soon as possible, so that he could arrange training for his future master. Therefore, it was most suitable for him to come forward and ask for the petals from Rhyme. As for Lung Ruoxue, it wasn't appropriate for her to appear in front of the fog. After all, the difference in strength between the two of them was too great. On top of that, the fog was injured. If the petal was stolen by someone else, the fog might go crazy. Therefore, after thinking about it, it felt that it was more appropriate to ask for the petal from the fog personally. After all, if the petal was taken away by it, the fog wouldn't be able to do anything even if it was angry. More importantly, Rhyme knew it very well. She knew that it had always been barbaric and domineering. If it liked something, it would definitely try to get it. If it didn't give it, it would directly snatch it. Therefore, if it asked for it from the Fog Phoenix, the Fog Phoenix would definitely not be suspicious. In this way, its future master would have more time to grow. With this thought, it was even more determined to get the petals of the Rhyme Ice. Just as it had thought, when Fog Ice knew that Song wanted a petal from its body, it had indeed thought of Bing Yao. It had also thought that Song might have gotten together with Bing Yao. However, after thinking about it carefully, she felt that it was impossible because she knew Song too well. This annoying fellow was a selfish villain. It had no friendship with Bing Yao at all. Back then it did not help you, so it would not help Bing Yao now. Therefore, she quickly denied this thought. But no matter what reason Azure had for wanting the petals from her body, she would definitely not give it to him. She even wanted to use a strand of her hair to exchange for a petal that was very important to her. It was simply a fool's dream. Do you think that your fur can be compared to my petals? Knowing Song's purpose, Wuxia calmed down and said with a sneer, her beautiful eyes full of sarcasm. Why not? They're all unnecessary things on my body anyway, so it's no big deal to change them. You should know that every single hair on my body is very important to me. Azure Beard said. You really have the nerve to say that. You're getting more and more shameless. Although Wuxia was calm, she almost vomited blood when she heard Song's words. She also had a new understanding of Song's shamelessness. Thanks for the compliment. Wuxiao's words made Song very happy, and his face also revealed a happy expression. Those who didn't know would definitely think that he had really been praised. In fact, that was simply a false statement. When Fog Eye saw Song's appearance, she rolled her eyes and said, I'm not complimenting you. I can also tell you clearly that you can't even think about exchanging one of your hairs for a petal from my body. Then I'll use 2 strands of fur to exchange for it. 2 for 1, you won't lose out. After thinking about it, Azure said in an even more pained tone. Not even 2. Wu Chen roared without caring about his image. She really wanted to beat someone up. How could this damn guy be so annoying? She was so angry that she wanted to scratch the wall. Those few will do. Name a number. I'll consider if it's less than 100. Song said with some grievance, his small eyes still floating towards Wuxiao. Even if you give me all the hair on your body, I still won't let you. The cold air on Wu Xian's body rose sharply and she roared again. Her towering chest kept moving up and down because of her anger. After hearing Wu Xian's words, the grievance on Song's face became even heavier. Little Lian, don't be like this. Let's have a good discussion. A petal is nothing to you, so why are you so stingy? Song stole a glance at Wuxiao and carefully discussed it. However, Wuxiao didn't give him a good face and her face was getting darker and darker. Seeing this, Song said, Little Lian, I've noticed that after not seeing you for so long, your temper has become even worse, AI. A woman can't be like this. A woman should be gentle and cute. No man will like you if you're so fierce. Song once again brought up Wu Ice's sore spot and immediately, Wu Ice exploded. What does this have to do with you? Just take care of yourself. I don't need you to worry about my matters. The consequences of Rhyme getting angry were very serious, but the other party didn't care at all. So, Rhyme's anger was forcibly suppressed in her heart, which made her heart ache so much that it clenched. Her eyes looking at Song became more and more unfriendly. Originally, she was able to hold back her anger and maintain a trace of rationality. After Song's repeated provocations, she was on the verge of exploding. However, Song didn't seem to know it and acted like nothing had happened. He still said, I did it for your own good. After all, we've known each other for so many years. It's only natural for us to care for each other and help each other. You really shouldn't be treating me like this, Sai. It really breaks my heart. At the same time, beads of water appeared in his dark and bright eyes, turning misty. Then he changed the topic and continued. Little Lian, it's also on account of our many years of friendship that I'm being nice to you. If you don't appreciate it, I can't do anything about it. But I must have your petals. So, if you don't give it to me, I'll have to take it by force. At that time, you won't just lose a single petal, so you better think about it carefully. After Song finished speaking, everyone present finally understood. In fact, this was what this Totoro wanted to say the most, right? Pretending to be wronged and pitiful was really not suitable for this powerful bull beast. When they heard Song say that they were going to snatch it by force, everyone nodded in agreement. This was more like the performance of the Totoro just now. All talks and discussions were over. Snatching by force was the way to go. And this powerful and domineering Totoro was obviously more suitable for this kind of thing. So don't pretend to be pitiful. They looked awkward, but in fact they wanted to shout, there are no outsiders here. We all know what kind of person you are. Are you threatening me? Song's words made Rhyme rather angry. However, she had no choice but to be apprehensive because she was very clear that this annoying fellow would definitely do such a thing. This fellow was a beast. I'm not threatening you. I just hope that you can understand the current situation. You should know that once I have something I'm interested in, I must get it. So you'd better be tactful. Azure spoke the truth and no longer pretended to be pitiful. In any case, he had already made his words very clear. Whether Fog would agree or not, it was up to her to decide. And if she really didn't agree, then she couldn't blame it. Song's words caused Wuxia to think carefully. Her half-closed eyes were filled with flames of anger. Unfortunately, she had nowhere to vent her anger. Having known Blue for a long time, she knew that Blue was a madman who kept his word. Since it had said so, if she didn't give it the petal, Blue would definitely do something like a bandit. And if it succeeded, it was hard to say how much of a loss she would suffer. In short, it definitely wouldn't be small. However, if she was threatened by Azure and obediently handed over the petals from her own body, she felt that it would be a slap to her face. After all, she was the lord of the divine world. How could she be threatened? How would she convince the public in the future? Therefore, for a moment, Wuyan was in a dilemma. Looking at Fog's expression, Song clearly knew what Fog Ripple was thinking, so he lit a fire and said, Little Lian, you have to consider it carefully. I just want a petal. Give it to me and we will be fine. Of course, if you want to fall out with me, I'm not afraid, but you have to think about the impact on yourself, right? If the Divine Master loses the hearts of the people, have you thought of the consequences? Song Ina's words were sincere and sincere. It seemed as if he was saying this for her own good, but she couldn't deny that Song's words weren't just to scare her. The only reason she was able to sit firmly on the Divine Master's position was because she had done a great job on the surface. However, only she knew that the Divine Master's position was like a volcano to her. It could erupt at any time. However, no matter how she thought about it, she was unwilling to hand over a petal of her own body. One should know that a petal needed at least 1,000 years to grow, and handing over a petal meant that she would lose 1,000 years of cultivation. How could she bear to do so? But if he didn't give it, this damn guy would definitely not let it go. Who knew what kind of outrageous things it would do? As she thought about it, her heart was in a mess. Chapter 2055. Return with a Bountiful Harvest, 1. Seeing the fog's furrowed brows and angry eyes, Azure obediently returned a silly smile. Then he lay on the ground and extended two sharp claws, flicking the petals on the body of the fog clone. The petals trembled and then drooped down as if resigned to fate. Azure used its claws to playfully flick the petals, but the corner of its eyes didn't miss the reactions of everyone present. However, what it was most interested in was the reaction of the flower in front of it. He really wanted to ruthlessly destroy a flower. At the same time, Azure's claws grabbed onto a thick, crystal-like petal. Just as he was about to tear it off, an angry roar sounded in his ears. "Damn it! What are you doing?" Sung dug his ear and looked at the owner of the voice unhappily. "Little Lian, why are you so loud? I'm not deaf. You really gave me a big scare. I'm asking you what you're doing." "Grandpa and I." Miro suppressed her anger and asked angrily. "I didn't look at him properly, and this guy wants to do bad things again. Couldn't its claws be more obedient?" "I didn't do anything. It's just a little boring. Quickly decide. Don't be so insipid. Be a tough girl and make a quick decision, okay?" When Song opened his mouth, he could anger people to death. And when Fog Ripple heard Song's words, she almost fainted. Damn it, she was a woman. Why did she have to act like a tomboy? He still dared to complain about her? Shouldn't she consider such an important matter carefully? Those were the petals of her body, which represented her life and her thousands of years of cultivation. They were not ordinary wildflowers and weeds. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. However, when she saw Song, who was acting dumb and smiling at her, she deeply felt what it meant to be powerless. Fuck. This guy was clearly a bad guy, but he still pretended to be an innocent little white rabbit. If he was an innocent little white rabbit, then could there be any other innocent creatures in this world? Moreover, she really wanted to stamp off Azure's disobedient claws so that it wouldn't have any ideas about her petals. However, she only thought about it and didn't dare to put it into action. At the thought of this, she felt even more depressed and conflicted. AI. How could there be such a detestable thing in the world? She really wanted to scratch the wall. However, before she could finish sighing, she was interrupted by Azure's demonic voice. "Little Lian, you're getting more and more dilly-dallying when doing things now. Quickly take out your charm from back then, and give this lord a petal from your original body. Hurry up, this lord's patience is limited." Wuxia was a little angry and could only glare at Song, but she couldn't say anything to refute him. "What about me? Do you agree or not? Or do you want me to do it myself?" Azure said with a threatening tone. "Can you tell me what you want the petals from my body for?" Taking a deep breath, Fog Eyes forced herself not to argue with the impolite Azure. Instead, she directly asked Azure why he wanted the petals, even though he might not tell the truth. "Feed the pigs." Azure smiled faintly and said two words. As soon as these two words were spoken, the entire place fell silent. Even Lung Ruoxua and the others, who were watching the screen from their bracelets, were all silent. After a long while, Ao Jie was the first to speak. "Little girl, it said your senior brother is a pig. Yes, it even said that my master is an idiot." Lung Ruoxua nodded. In other words, she was saying that this was no big deal. Moreover, although she hadn't been with Dian Song for a long time, she knew that he wouldn't be able to say anything nice. Calling senior brother a pig was probably already giving him face. Moreover, she did not mention that senior brother was a pig by name. Thus, Lung Ruoxua would not automatically make the connection. After hearing the words "feed the pigs," Fog's mind went blank for a short while. After regaining her senses, Fog couldn't bear it anymore and roared. "Damn it! You're actually going to feed the flower petals on my body to the pigs? I can't. I feel that this is definitely making the best use of everything. Moreover, if the pig ate the petals on your body, it would definitely grow fat and strong. Hee. I'm drooling just thinking about it." Azure intentionally laughed in an exaggerated manner. "You're the artifact spirit. It's an artifact spirit." Ripple gritted her teeth and warned. This was the first time she had heard of an artifact spirit raising pigs to eat meat. This was truly a world-changing story. "I know. So what if it's an artifact spirit? Are you looking down on artifact spirits?" Hearing this, Song asked in a slightly aggrieved manner. The people of the Divine Master's estate had not reacted from the pig-feeding incident before they were knocked unconscious by the word, artifact spirit. Oh my God! The Divine Master said that this guy was an artifact spirit? Although everyone knew that artifact spirits could exist without their bodies after cultivating to a certain level, this was only a legend to many people. Today, this legendary artifact spirit was actually in front of them, and was treated as a small beast. This was a huge blow to their vision. Moreover, they couldn't tell at all that the Totoro in front of them was an artifact spirit. They were more curious about what artifact spirit this guy was. If it was such a powerful artifact spirit, wouldn't its original divine artifact be even more powerful? This fact was too exciting. However, none of them could figure out what kind of artifact spirit Azure was, and they didn't dare to ask. As a result, all of their faces turned red, but they could only endure it. However, those curious gazes would always drift towards Song from time to time. Song also graciously allowed everyone to look at him, and was extremely calm. Who dares to look down on you? Wuxia said unhappily. Looking at Song's calm appearance, the anger in her heart couldn't be suppressed. That's good. Since you don't look down on me, then quickly give me a petal from your body, and let me feed it to the pigs. My pig is waiting. I'm so hungry I'm howling. Azure said worriedly. Azure's words caused Ripple to glare at it for a long time. While Ripple was staring at it, it even put on a very casual appearance and would occasionally exchange glances with Ripple, causing Ripple to be even angrier. However, after waiting for a long time, Ripple still didn't say whether to give it the petals. Azure's patience was running out. Little Lian, are you going to give me the flower petals or not? Give me a straightforward answer. If you don't, let's not waste everyone's time. I'll just snatch it. Song's words were quite domineering. Everyone in the Divine Lord's estate broke out in cold sweat, and their hearts trembled. Although Song's words were not directed at them, they knew that if the Divine Lord really gave them the petals, he would definitely find an unlucky person to vent his anger. Naturally, they did not want to be the unlucky person to vent his anger. Thinking of this, many people were afraid, and were already thinking about how to get themselves out of this matter. I'll give it to you. Wu Cheng gritted his teeth so hard that they almost shattered as he spoke in a vicious manner. Chapter 2056. Return with a bountiful harvest, too. When Lung Ruoxue and the others in the Bengal heard this, they heaved a sigh of relief in their hearts. It was a good thing that the other party was finally willing to give them the flower petals. However, the petals hadn't really been in their hands yet, so they were still a little worried. However, with Song here, they believed that Fog wouldn't dare to go back on their word. With this thought in mind, they immediately relaxed. Little girl, there's hope for Bingyao. Uncle Long's mood relaxed, and the smile on his face grew. Coming to U City and getting the petals of Fog Phoenix's body was the best result, but what made him even happier was that they were all safe and sound. Moreover, with Song standing out, Fog Phoenix wouldn't suspect them of this matter. This way, Schwerer would have more time to strengthen herself, which was also Tsong's goal. Lung Ruoxue nodded happily. This matter was all thanks to Tsong. Originally, Song said that he wouldn't help, but who would have thought that in the end, he would still take the initiative to help them ask for the petals. It seemed like Tsong was also a fellow who had a sharp tongue but a soft heart. She gave Tsong a definition. However, if Tsong knew that Lung Ruoxue thought of it this way, he would definitely refute it. But in general, this matter was considered a success. However, after Wu Xiao promised to give Tsong the flower petals, she didn't do anything. Seeing this, Tsong couldn't help but urge, "Little Ripple, give me the flower petals, it's more refreshing. Just you wait." She glared at Tsong hatefully, then unwillingly disappeared from her spot. Tsong was lying on the ground, waiting in boredom. His dark eyes sized up the people present from time to time, scaring them so much that their little hearts began to tremble again. Fuck. The pressure that this artifact spirit beast gave them was too great. However, when they thought about how even the Divine Master could not do anything to this fellow, they finally felt a little more balanced in their hearts. After a long time, just as Azure was starting to get impatient, Wu Ice finally returned. When Song saw the fog ice, he couldn't help but curse. You ugly freak. You're so slow even when taking a petal. No wonder no one wants you. This time, it wasn't called Little Ripple anymore. In any case, it was certain that as long as it wanted something, Rhyme Ice wouldn't dare to not give it. If you don't give it to me, I'll snatch it. This was its principle in doing things. Take the flower petals and get out of here. Here you go. Rhyme didn't pay attention to Tsong's attitude and words, but directly asked him to leave. Then, very unwillingly, she handed over a bright red petal. Who knew that after Tsong took it, he was somewhat dissatisfied. I say, ugly freak. You're too stingy. The petals you gave me are so small. They're not even as big as the petals on your clone. You're able to take out such a small thing? Azure criticized the flower petal, with a look of displeasure on his face. His pitch-black eyes were filled with disdain, but as he said this, he kept the flower petal. In reality, although this petal wasn't big in Azure's eyes, it was still close to a meter in diameter. It wasn't considered small. However, compared to the other petals of fog, it was very weak. Hence, Azure was very dissatisfied. However, he also knew that asking Fog to give him a petal was already enough to make her feel pain to death. It was obvious that Fog wouldn't take her biggest and best petal for him. Hence, he was just looking for trouble. When Wuxia heard Song's words, she was indeed furious. Don't fall for this scoundrel's trick. However, when she heard Song say this, she couldn't completely control her anger. This guy was clearly taking advantage of her and still acting innocent. I've given it a petal, and it's still not satisfied? He was really looking for a beating. If you're not satisfied, then give it back to me. At most, we'll fall out with each other. Wu Jing said with a look of going all out. She had really had enough. She had tolerated the other party again and again, but this guy was getting more and more insatiable. It was really preposterous. Hearing that Wu Xiao was really angry this time, Song Yiren laughed innocently and said, "AI, forget it. I know it's not easy for you to cultivate, so it doesn't matter if these petals are small. It's more than enough to feed the pigs, but you have to compensate me with something else. How can you be so shameless? Also, don't let me hear the words feed the pigs again, or else you'll bear the consequences." Fog couldn't do anything to Tsong and could only threaten him. In fact, she wouldn't easily fall out with Tsong. The consequences were too serious, at least for now. She couldn't bear it. All right. I won't say that I'm feeding the pigs, but you can't say that I'm shameless. Furthermore, you have to compensate me with something else. Otherwise, I won't leave. Azure emphasized shamelessly, making everyone sigh. However, they knew that the Master God couldn't do anything to this Totoro. If it was anyone else, the Master God would have killed them. What else do you want? I can only give you the petals this once. Don't even think about asking me for more. Rhyme hatefully said. She was so angry that she was going crazy. Give me more money. I don't have any pocket money. Songda said shamelessly. Who do you think I am to you? Do I have to give you pocket money? The flames of anger on Wu Xian's body could no longer be concealed. Am not this annoying person's mother. Yet I still have to give him pocket money. What the hell is this? Besides, you're just an artifact spirit. You don't eat or drink. What's the use of money? It's useful. I'll just watch, okay? I like to watch. Azure said matter-of-factly. The smile on its face was as annoying as it could get. And its answer, no matter how good-tempered a person was, would probably be driven mad. Fuck. Who would ask for money from others just because they like to look at money? However, it didn't seem to be a big deal for such words to come out of the mouth of this domineering Totoro. Everyone thought. However, Song didn't ask them for money, so they naturally couldn't understand Wu Yan's feelings. Wu Yan was angry, and the anger in her heart couldn't be described with words. However, to her the most precious flower petals had been given, so those worldly possessions were nothing. Thinking this way, Wu Yan directly took out a storage ring and handed it to Tsong, saying, "Pick your own. Hurry up and get lost after you're done." She wanted to get rid of Tsongda as soon as possible, so she planned to spend money to avoid disaster. Azure took the ring and scanned it with his divine sense. Then he nodded in satisfaction. "Then I won't stand on ceremony. Thank you." After speaking, Song disappeared. Seeing Song leave so easily, Fog couldn't believe it at first, but after reacting she roared, "Song! Damn it! Get back here!" She only wanted to let Song pick a few items from the ring, but that bastard actually took all the storage rings. He's too hateful. Ever since she had felt something strange about the Divine Lord's estate, she had taken all the treasures she had collected over the years with her. The treasures in the ring were not all of her wealth, but they took up at least a third of it. However, Song had taken them away so easily. Moreover, Song had taken her most precious flower petal from her. Adding these two things together, she was about to explode with anger. Chapter 2057. Return with a bountiful harvest 3. Azure. Wu Chen roared angrily again, but only a gentle breeze responded to her. Wu Xian continued to roar crazily without caring about her image. Her voice even carried her pressure. Immediately, everyone in the God Lord's estate felt an extraordinary pressure. Those who were weaker and had injuries directly fainted. At this moment, a bang was heard. The sturdy walls of the God Lord's estate collapsed with a loud crash. Many people outside happened to hear the commotion and came to watch. At first, they didn't see anything, but when the walls fell, they saw everything that happened in the God Lord's estate. Seeing this, the onlookers were stunned for a moment before they immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Oh my God! After seeing this scene that he shouldn't have seen, what better time to run than now? As the onlookers ran, they did not forget to cover their faces with their hands, so that they would not be killed by the people in the Divine Master's estate. Thinking of this, they ran even faster. Even their teleportation speed was almost twice as fast as usual. However, they had overdone it. Although Wu Xian was angry at this time, she did not think of venting her anger on them for the time being, because Wu Xian was so angry that her mind was blank, and she could not think of anything at all. When Xianyi saw this scene, he only gave Huang Wei and Xia a look. The three of them led the people who were still in their clear minds in the Divine Master's estate, and began to clean up the messy ruins. At the same time, Xianyi heaved a huge sigh of relief. At least, Uncle Long and the others had finally achieved their purpose of coming here. They had not been exposed to the Divine Master. This was definitely good news for him. When she gradually calmed down, she suddenly realized that there was no one in front of her. Not far away, the three reverent gods of the Divine Master's estate were directing the crowd to clear the ruins. Seeing this, she disappeared in a flash. In a flash, Wu Jing appeared in the cell she had been to before. When the black-clothed man in charge of the prison saw Wu Xiao, he quickly came forward with a charming smile and said, "Divine Master, you've come." "Yes." Ripple coldly snorted. Without saying anything else, she picked up a pitch-black whip covered in spikes. Then, with a wave of her hand, the whip flew towards one of the women. This woman was the woman she had whipped before. Wu Yan vented all her anger on the woman. In an instant, the woman's body was covered in blood, but the woman laughed happily. "Ha ha ha. Ha ha. Fight. If you kill me, I'll be able to accompany master you." Upon hearing this, Wu Xian immediately dropped the whip and said coldly, "You wish. I will not let you die." Then she instructed the man in black, "You torture them. I want them to suffer a fate worse than death." "Yes." The black-clothed man quickly responded. Then he picked up the whip that Wu Xiao had thrown away and whipped everyone in the cell. The black-clothed man could see that the Divine Master was in a very bad mood. Therefore, he became very careful. He was afraid that he would do something wrong and anger the Divine Master. If that happened, he might lose his life. The sound of whipping could be heard in the prison cell. It sounded, but it was not accompanied by wails, but loud laughter, wild laughter, and angry curses at Fog. Unfortunately, Fog Ripple's face remained expressionless when she heard all of this. In the past, when she was in a bad mood, she would come here to see these people being tortured and feel their angry eyes. She would be excited and agitated, but now, her mood did not ease at all. Her heart was still angry and depressed. This fact made Wu Jing more and more irritable. Suddenly she shouted, "Stop fighting, make them shut up." The man in black was stunned and a little at a loss. Did he want them to shut up so that he could give them more mute medicine? However, Wu Xian did not give the man in black any answer. After roaring, her figure disappeared from the cell. A woman's heart was like a needle in the ocean. It was really hard to serve a divine master. The man in black couldn't help but secretly sigh when he saw that the fog ripple had suddenly disappeared without any warning. After Wuxian left, she did not return to the ruined divine master's estate. Instead, she headed to the location of the Guardian Tower. When she stood at the foot of the mountain and looked at the tall, magnificent, towering, and majestic Guardian Tower, the anger in her heart instantly burst out. In a flash, Wuxian had already arrived at the entrance of the God-protecting tower. Song, get out here. Standing in front of the two doors of the God-protecting tower, Wuxiao roared angrily. However, Azure didn't react. Song, get out here. Song, get out here. Wuxian continued to roar, and the anger on her face grew deeper and deeper. Her entire body seemed to be spewing fire. Seeing that Songdu didn't react to her shouting, Wuxian mobilized most of her divine power and struck the God-protecting pagoda with all her might. Bang! With a loud sound, the huge divine power hit the God-protecting tower. However, it did not even leave a scratch on the God-protecting tower. Seeing this, Ripple Mist did not give up. Just as she was about to use her divine power to continue attacking the God-protecting pagoda, she was stopped by the leader of the men in black who had followed behind. God Lord, calm down. Don't fall for that guy's trick. The leader of the men in black saw the abnormal flush on Wu Xiao's face and couldn't help but ask worriedly, "Don't you care? Get lost. I'm going to smash that bastard Song out today." Wu Xiao shouted angrily. The anger in her heart was getting stronger and stronger. If she didn't let it out, she would go crazy. God Lord. Calm down. Money was small, but the body was big. You have to take care of your body, or else you'll be falling for someone else's trap. The man in black continued to persuade him. Right. I can't be tricked by that bastard Song. However, I won't just let this matter go. Wu Yan finally calmed down a little. She thought for a while, and found a way out for herself. She knew that she had lost a lot of face this time. If she didn't do something, she wouldn't be able to convince the public in the future. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so angry. But what could she do? For a moment, she couldn't think calmly about what was going to happen next, and could only sulk in her heart. After a while, she glared at the God-protecting tower, and left with a flick of her sleeves. Seeing Wu Xiao leave, Song, who was in the God-protecting tower but had been pretending to be deaf and mute, couldn't help but complain. What a miser. I only took some money from her, and she's already here. Did you just take a bit of money? Lung Ruoxue, who was standing beside Song, laughed. After Song left, they had also left the Divine Lord's residence and came here. According to what she knew, Azure had even robbed the other party's storage ring and taken a petal from Fog Phoenix's body. It was no wonder that Fog Phoenix was so furious. Of course, that bit of money is nothing to that ugly woman. Besides, I'm doing this for you, Song said with a hint of hidden bitterness. There seemed to be mist in his pitch-black eyes as he looked at Lung Ruoxue. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was helpless. This fellow was addicted to acting pitiful. However, Song really did it for her because he had already given her the flower petal and the ring. It was a meeting gift, and there were many good things in the ring. In short, they had returned with a full load. Of course, she basically took all the benefits. With this thought in mind, Lung Ruoxue could only cooperate and say, Song is the best. Thank you for your present. No need to thank me, just treat me better in the future. Song's expression immediately turned to pride. Then he jumped into Lung Ruoxue's arms and found a comfortable position to lie down. He ignored the sharp eyes that were shooting daggers at him from not far away and was very calm. Lung Ruoxue was helpless when she saw its current state, while the demon was furious. However, in the immortal realm, there was really nothing he could do to this fellow. This was the so-called saying, a strong dragon cannot suppress a snake in its own territory. And Azure could definitely be considered the king of the snakes. However, the narrow-minded evildoer still secretly made a mark on Song. In the future, when he had the opportunity, he would definitely get back at him. Furthermore, this time, Song University was in the limelight again. Hence, his dissatisfaction with Song was almost bursting. However, he had a strong tolerance and did not show it at all. However, he kept shooting daggers at Song in the dark. However, Song was not a soft persimmon either. Hence, the two of them had actually fought countless rounds in secret. However, these small things were done behind Lung Ruoxia's back. Of course, it was impossible for Lung Ruoxia to be completely oblivious to the undercurrent between them. It was just that she ignored it because she was very clear that even though these two were fighting in the dark, they had a sense of propriety. On the other hand, small fights were more enjoyable. Hence, Lung Ruoxia treated this as a way of getting along between them. Then the happy crowd returned with a full load. With Song, their return to the land of evil demons was much faster. In the blink of an eye, they were home. When Master Ning and First Elder, who were sitting in the garden, saw the people who suddenly appeared in the garden, they widened their eyes in disbelief and rubbed their eyes hard. Then they asked carefully, "Swear you're back?" Godfather, Great Elder were back. Seeing her godfather and Great Elder's expressions, Lung Ruoxia could not help but laugh. These two old men's silly expressions were really too cute, weren't they? Chapter 2058. The Divine Master's residence is Tofu 1. Hee. It's good that you're back. You've been gone for so many days. We were so worried. Hearing Lung Ruoxia's voice, Master Ning was sure that Shuer had returned. Little girl, how's the antidote for Bingyao coming along? First Elder asked with concern. I've already found it. Lung Ruoxia said with a smile. That's good. We can finally rest assured. You didn't go out in vain. When Master Ning and the Great Elder heard this, they both let out a sigh of relief. Oh right. Godfather, First Elder, is everything all right at home? Lung Ruoxia asked with concern. It's all right, we're just a little bored. Those little guys find us annoying and don't really want to talk to us. The master of the Ning family complained. When he said this, his handsome face was full of grievances. Yup. Those heartless little ones don't see anyone all day long. There are only the two of us in such a big house. There's no one else to talk to. The Great Elder agreed. Are Lu Feng and the others not around? When Lung Ruoxia heard the two old men's words, black lines appeared on her forehead. She thought to herself, I haven't seen them for so long. Why did I find out that these two old men have become resentful husbands the moment I returned? Logically speaking, no one should have dared to provoke them. Humph. Don't even mention those little rascals. Once you guys left, they went straight into their rooms and didn't come out. Cheng Guo and the others also stayed at the Yao family building. They said that it was convenient for them to stay there for business, so no one bothered about us. The First Elder pitifully said. As he spoke, he kept peeking at Lung Ruoxia with a resentful gaze. His face was red with the words, "You have to avenge us." A few big words. I didn't expect those stinky brats to work so hard. Not bad. Not bad. I'll have to reward them properly later. At this moment, Uncle Long, who had heard the First Elder's words, spoke. It was obvious that he was going against the First Elder's words. However, due to Uncle Long's imposing manner, the First Elder did not dare to say anything. He could only look at Lung Ruoxia with an even more aggrieved gaze. When Lung Ruoxia saw this, she was helpless and could only change the topic. Godfather, Great Elder, you've worked hard during this period of time. I'll go get the antidote for senior brother first, and then I'll come back to accompany you. With that, Lung Ruoxia pulled the evildoer and ran off. In an instant, only the four old men were left in the garden, staring at each other. After Lung Ruoxia and the evildoer left, Uncle Long sized up the master of the Ning family and the Great Elder in surprise. He then asked, I haven't seen you two for a long time, and you've become more promising. In my opinion, it's not that they don't want to pay attention to you, but they're so annoyed by you that they don't dare to pay attention to you. Uncle Long's tone was absolutely certain, and it had to be said that Uncle Long was right. After hearing what Uncle Long had to say, the master of the Ning family and the First Elder both said in a low voice, We're just saying. It's not a complaint. Hehe. Looking at your aggrieved appearance, I really should have thrown you into the Yao family building to solicit business. It would definitely be a big hit. Uncle Long couldn't help but tease Master Ning, and the great elder. However, when the master of the Ning family and the first elder heard this, their faces turned pale, and cold sweat broke out on their bodies. Was Uncle Long joking? You must be joking. They weren't too sure because Uncle Long often annihilated others with a smile. Therefore, they couldn't rule out the possibility that Uncle Long really had such thoughts. Thinking of this, the master of the Ning family quickly said, Uncle Long, you must be joking. The Yao clan's business is so good now, they don't need us to solicit business. After he finished speaking, he even wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, his little heart trembling nonstop. You're right, if you two go, you might even scare the guests away. It's tiring to be famous. Uncle Long sighed, but he was laughing in his heart. It was quite interesting to tease these two old men when he had nothing to do. Yup, that's right. The master of the Ning family and the great elder both nodded, and let out a long breath at the same time. That was close. That's right, I want to go to the Yao clan building to take a look. If there's nothing else, come with me. Uncle Long said, looking at Master Ning and the first elder, who seemed to have escaped. The two people who were glad that they had escaped from Uncle Long's evil clutches immediately became listless when they heard this. However, they didn't dare to object, so they could only reply. All right, he said. Just like that, the Ning family's master and first elder followed behind Uncle Long and Audiobook unwillingly, slowly walking to the Yao family building at the foot of the mountain in the land of demons. On the way, Uncle Long looked back at the master of the Ning family and the great elder, who were walking very slowly and couldn't help urging. Are you two not able to use your legs? Why are you walking so slowly? Hurry up. Otherwise, it'll be dark soon. The two of them looked up at the sky. The sun was currently hanging high in the sky, emitting a dazzling light. It was still far from dark. However, the two of them didn't dare to disobey Uncle Long's words, so they could only speed up and catch up with the team. A moment later, the four of them arrived at the Yao clan building. As soon as they entered the Yao clan building, Uncle Long realized that business was really good. The entire first floor was filled with people. Cheng Wu, who had received the waiter's report, hurriedly came out from his private room to welcome Uncle Long and the others. Uncle Long, you're back. Seeing Uncle Long and Audiobook, Cheng Wu's face was filled with joy. You guys have done a good job in building the Yao clan building while I was away. Uncle Long patted Cheng Wu's shoulder and praised him. Hehe. This is our main source of business at the moment, so of course we have to do our best. Cheng Wu said, slightly embarrassed. In reality, he did not dare to claim credit for this. If it was someone else who had such good resources, their business would also be as prosperous. Well said. As the two of them were talking, they had already entered their private room. As soon as they sat down, the waiter immediately served them tea and snacks. Not long after, delicious dishes were also delivered to the private room. When Uncle Long saw the waiter delivering the food, he was momentarily stunned. Why does this little fellow look so much like Ji Yin? He took a closer look. It really was Ji Yin. Ji family's kid, why are you here? Uncle Long asked curiously. I'm studying here. Ji Yin's face was slightly red. Study? Learn what? How do you receive guests? Uncle Long teased. No. I'm here to learn how to cook. It'll only help to entertain the guests when there's a shortage of manpower. Ji Yin hurriedly explained. He was learning how to cook from the divine chef Lu Qi. However, he was still being tested by Lu Qi, so he naturally had to perform well. Thus, he became a brick that moved wherever there was a need for him. He was busy all day long like a small top. I see. Uncle Long nodded in understanding, then asked, how's your learning going? Chapter 2059. The Divine Master's residence is Tofu too. I haven't started learning yet. Divine Chef Lu Qi is still testing me. Ji Yin said, a little embarrassed. However, he knew that people with professional skills would not easily accept a disciple, so he had been waiting patiently. He believed that he would definitely be able to pass the test. Oh, then you better perform well, AI. It wasn't enough to only know how to roast meat. You'll get sick of it. Uncle Long said in a serious tone. Every time he thought about the roasted meat he had eaten before he left, his interest in it would be greatly reduced. Those things were originally made for Schwerer by Ji Yun. But because of Bing Yao's incident, Schwerer didn't have the time to eat them, and she probably didn't want to eat them either. So in order not to waste them, he had eaten them. Now that he thought about it, he still lost the desire to eat the roasted meat. It was clear that the roasted meat had hurt him quite badly. Yes, I will work hard, Ji Yun promised. Then he carefully looked at Uncle Long and said in a soft voice, Schwerer is back too? She's back, but she's very busy. You should study well with Lu Qi and don't disturb her now, Uncle Long said straightforwardly. He immediately dispelled Ji Yun's thoughts of returning to see Leng Ruoxue. Ji Yun unwillingly nodded and said, I know, she said and left the room. After Ji Yun left, Cheng Wu asked, Did you find Senior Bing Yao's antidote? They all knew about Bing Yao's injury, but only those who were close to Leng Ruoxue knew about it. Yes. Uncle Long nodded and stopped talking about it. Instead, he focused on eating the dishes in front of him. Seeing that, Aojia did not stand on ceremony. In the blink of an eye, almost half of the dishes in front of them were gone. Looking at the appearance of these two people in the scroll of wind and cloud, the master of the Ning family, the first elder, and Cheng Wu were all surprised. How long had it been since the two of them had eaten? After Uncle Dragon and Aojia finished their food, they saw the other three people's dumbfounded expressions. They said nonchalantly, This dish tastes good. We're very satisfied. When the three of them heard this, they nodded their heads in unison. They thought to themselves, We've all eaten it clean. How can we not be satisfied? I also want to eat. At this time, a voice suddenly rang in their ears. Then, they saw a white lightning quickly appear on the table. This white lightning was Tsang. Looking at the snow-white Totoro wagging its big fluffy tail, Master Ning blinked and couldn't help but say, This little beast was brought back by Schwerer, right? He vaguely remembered that Schwerer had such a small Totoro on her shoulder. However, Schwerer was in a hurry to get the antidote for Bing Yao, so he did not pay attention to the existence of this little Totoro. Now it seemed that this little thing was very likely Schwerer's new pet. However, this Totoro only had a cute appearance. In reality, it did not have any great abilities. Therefore, he naturally did not pay too much attention to it. When Song heard Master Ning's words, he said with dissatisfaction, You're the little beast. Your whole family is a little beastie. Song's words made the Ning family head dumbfounded. Did he say something wrong? Why did he get scolded? At the thought of this, Master Ning said with an aggrieved face, Little guy, I'm not wrong. You're just a little beast. You're from the Totoro clan. Bah. You're the little beastie. You're from the Totoro clan. Who said that anyone who looks like a Totoro must be a Totoro? Which part of me looks like a weak life form? Song rolled his eyes and said in an unpleasant tone, Hearing this, the master of the Ning family didn't know what to say. It seemed that this little beast had a great background. At the thought of this, he could not help but look at Uncle Dragon and Aojia for help. His eyes were filled with anticipation as he hoped that these two could give him an explanation. However, he was obviously going to be disappointed, because after hearing Wan Song's words and seeing Master Ning's deflated appearance, the two were already laughing so hard that they couldn't stand it anymore. They didn't even have time to explain to him. Little guy. Seeing that the master of the Ning family was quite pitiful, the great elder, as Master Ning's good friend, naturally stepped forward. Originally, he wanted to inquire about the origin of the Totoro in front of him, but he only said the three words little guy, and was interrupted by the angry Tsang. You're the little guy. You bastard. How dare you call me little fellow? Are you looking to die? Little brat. Azure said angrily. When the great elder heard Song's tongue-twisting words, he felt a little dizzy. He didn't say anything. He had only called her little fellow, so why was he being scolded? From the looks of it, this was a bad-tempered, an unknown life form. After seeing the Ning family's master and first elder being defeated, Cheng Wu, who was also curious, did not dare to speak at all. Uncle Long and Aojia finally could not hold it in and laughed out loud, not caring about their image. Ha ha. The two of them laughed so hard that their image was completely ruined. Looking at Uncle Long and Aojia, who were laughing so hard that they almost rolled on the ground, Master Ning and the first elder felt even more depressed. Cheng Wu's curiosity was like a kitten that kept scratching at his heart. Moreover, knowing that the Totoro wanted to eat, Cheng Wu very tactfully took the initiative to bring some dishes over and place them in front of Tsang. As such, he was very honored to receive Tsang's admiring gaze. Immediately, Cheng Wu's heart felt a little light. After living for so long, Cold had never eaten much. However, ever since it ate Lung Ruoxia's food, it fell in love with it. Since Lung Ruoxia was busy preparing the antidote for Bingyao, she naturally had no time for it. So Cold left the Lung family's main residence and wandered around the demonic land. In a short period of time, it had successfully tamed the hearts of many beasts and made them follow its lead. It was also the beasts who told it about the Yao family. It knew that there was good food here, so it came here because of its reputation. As soon as it approached the Yao family building, Song discovered Uncle Long's aura and went straight to this private room. However, what made it angry was that the two little guys had actually eaten all the food, so in its anger, it vented its anger on the unlucky master of the Ning family and the Great Elder. Of course, those two guys also took the initiative to hit its muzzle, but now that they saw the delicious food, Song was obviously in a good mood. He didn't continue to make things difficult for the master of the Ning family and the Great Elder, but concentrated on eating the food in front of him. Song's eating appearance was quite elegant, in sharp contrast to its fiery temper. The Ning family master and the Great Elder saw that this little ancestor finally didn't aim the cannon at them, and they both breathed a sigh of relief. Logically speaking, with their status, there was no need for them to be afraid of this little thing of unknown origin. However, this little thing was Shui-er-s. Therefore, they were naturally tolerant of Tsang Duo. Of course, this was under the condition that they didn't know Tsang's identity. If they knew Tsang's identity, they definitely wouldn't be so relaxed. Chapter 2060. The Divine Master's residence is Tofu. 3. Uncle Dragon and Ao Jia, the two evil-minded people, only wanted to watch the show. They had no intention of revealing Tsang's identity. In fact, without Tsang's permission, they didn't dare to reveal Tsang's identity. Otherwise, no one would be able to take it when this guy got angry. With the God Lord's estate as a warning, the two of them became more and more cautious when dealing with Tsang, who asked their hearts to tremble at the thought of the Divine Master's estate. At this moment, their sympathy for Wuxia was like a torrential river, endless. After a long time, after Tsang was full, he spread out his limbs and laid on the table. The few people present saw that it was so casual, and the corners of their mouths couldn't help but twitch. Then they heard Tsang start to burp, and their foreheads were full of black lines. Uncle Long, just what is this little thing's background? The master of the Ning family couldn't help but ask Uncle Long secretly. How should I say this? He's very powerful and can't be provoked. Uncle Long thought for a moment and replied. Hearing Uncle Long's answer, the master of the Ning family was depressed. What was the difference between Uncle Long's answer and not saying anything? In fact, he wanted to know the identity of this Totoro more. Unfortunately, Uncle Dragon gave him such an ambiguous answer. Wasn't he deliberately trying to make him anxious? At that moment, he felt as if there was a kitten scratching at his heart, making him itch unbearably. But he was helpless. This fact made him very conflicted. However, he didn't struggle for long before the second elder of the Ning family sent him some news. After hearing it, he immediately widened his eyes and stared at the Totoro, who was sleeping soundly on the table. The second elder had told him that a Totoro had destroyed the Divine Lord's estate. The one in front of him was exactly the same as the Totoro that the second elder had described to him. Therefore, he had no doubt that this Totoro was the one that had destroyed the God Lord's estate. However, was this possible? Wait a minute. This Totoro was with Shui-er. If it was really the Totoro that had destroyed the Divine Master's estate, didn't that mean that Shui-er and the others had also gone to the Divine Master's estate? Instantly, this thought made the master of the Ning family pale with fright. The more he didn't want this to come true, the more he felt that the possibility of this situation was very high. Shui-er and the others said they were going to find the antidote, but they didn't tell him where they were going. Did they really go to U City? The seed of doubt was planted in the heart of the Ning family master. But when he thought of this possibility, the anger in Master Ning's heart began to rise. Damn it! If they really went to U City and kept it a secret from her, then she would definitely not forgive that stupid girl who didn't know her place. The Defense City was the Divine Master's territory. Was it that easy to go there? Especially when he thought of the possibility that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had gone to the Divine Master's residence. His heart was filled with anxiety. He knew very well that if Xue and the others went to the Divine Master's estate, they would definitely not go through the proper procedures to get the antidote. After all, it was not easy to meet the Divine Master. There was only one possibility, and that was to steal it. To steal from the Divine Master's residence. This thought made the master of the Ning family feel very crazy. However, a voice in his heart was telling him that these people would do such a thing. The master of the Ning family, who was in a dilemma, sent a message to Uncle Long again. Uncle Long, you guys went to Imperial City? He went to the Divine Lord's estate? Yes. Uncle Long nodded slightly. Now that they were back, there was no need to hide this matter from others. Hearing this, the master of the Ning family stood up from his seat with a whoosh. After confirming it, his face was red with anger and he couldn't help but roar. Why didn't you tell me about such a big thing earlier? The great elder saw that the old man of the Ning family was suddenly furious and was still a little confused, so he asked dumbly, Old man Ning, what's wrong with you? Did you take the wrong medicine? You're the one who's taken the wrong medicine. You can ask them where they went and you'll know why I'm angry. The master of the Ning family rolled his eyes at the first elder, who looked a little dazed. He pointed at Uncle Long and Aojia and said angrily, Uncle Long, what's going on? The first elder turned to look at Uncle Long and Aojia. We went to U City to find an antidote for Bing Yao, and we also went to the Divine Master's residence. Uncle Long explained. However, the great elder still didn't quite understand, and his face became even more confused. Going to the Imperial City and the Divine Master's estate, this shouldn't be a big deal, right? Why was the old man of the Ning family so angry? He wasn't as well informed as the master of the Ning family, so he didn't know what had happened in the Divine Master's estate. Seeing this, the master of the Ning family had to make it more clear. They collapsed the God Lord's manor. The God Lord's estate is now in ruins. The moment he said that, First Elder and Cheng Wu were both dumbfounded and did not come back to their senses for a long time. However, the first thing the two of them said when they came back to their senses was different. Really? You guys are really amazing. Although he had regained his senses, the great elder still felt a little uncertain. Such a mysterious thing had actually happened to someone he knew. It was simply too powerful. My idol. How did you do it? Tell us. Cheng Wu said excitedly. It had to be said that his ability to accept things was too strong. He had not thought about the consequences of this matter at all. He only wanted to know the process of this matter. When the great elder heard Cheng Wu's words, he also looked at Uncle Long with anticipation and admiration. Do you know how dangerous this is and how serious the consequences are? Seeing the great elder and Cheng Wu's excitement, the master of the Ning family growled in a low voice. It's already ruined, so what's the point of telling me? The first elder shrunk his neck and mumbled softly. Yup. What's done is done. There's nothing wrong with us listening, right? Cheng Wu said. However, his choice of words seemed a little inappropriate, because the master of the Ning family was even angrier after hearing what he said. He glared at them for a long time with fire in his eyes, and the two of them didn't dare to make a sound. Then, Master Ning flicked his sleeves angrily and left the room. Seeing his appearance, the great elder couldn't help but swallow his saliva and said, Old man Ning is really angry, AI. If only you had brought him to U City back then. He wouldn't have been so jealous. I know he's jealous. The first elder made an important conclusion to the actions of the Ning family master. Uncle Dragon and Aojia nodded in agreement after hearing the great elder's words. They also thought that the little guy was jealous, but it was too late to be jealous now. They had already returned. The disloyal great elder was more interested in hearing how Uncle Long and the others had destroyed the Divine Master's residence. Therefore, he didn't even think about coaxing his old friend. Instead, he kept urging Uncle Long to tell him what had happened. Uncle Long was annoyed, so he said seriously, "This matter has nothing to do with us. It was it who destroyed the Divine Master's estate." Seeing that Uncle Long was pointing at the gluttonous little Totoro, both the Great Elder and Cheng-Wu were dumbfounded again. Was this possible? Neither of them could tell that the Totoro in front of them had such great ability to destroy the Divine Lord's manor. One should know that the houses in the Divine World were extraordinarily sturdy, especially the Divine Lord's estate. Even a supreme god might not be able to destroy it. However, this seemingly weak little thing was the main culprit that Uncle Long had mentioned. How could they believe this? Under the disbelieving gazes of the First Elder and Cheng-Wu, Azure opened his pitch-black and bright eyes and woke up. He glanced at the two and said coldly, "What's the big deal with destroying the God Lord's estate? That God Lord's mansion was as crunchy as a piece of tofu. I didn't even use much strength before it collapsed. No wonder I didn't feel any sense of achievement. The Divine Master's estate was tofu." Hearing these words, the Great Elder and Cheng-Wu were once again in a daze. After they came back to their senses, they stared at Song with bright eyes. So their true idol was here. Powerful. He was really too powerful. Comparing the Divine Master's estate to tofu, if the Divine Master heard this, he would be depressed to death. Following that, the two of them came in front of Song and said softly, "Senior, can you tell us about your great achievements? Let us be happy as well." "Ah, what's wrong with that?" The two's adoring gazes pleased Song, and his mood improved greatly. Song's attitude also became more amiable. Then, Song began to explain the entire situation to the two of them. After listening to it, the First Elder and Cheng-Wu's adoration for Song had already reached a point of no return. These two heartless guys were extremely excited, while the master of the Ning family was so angry that he directly returned to the Ning family. However, no one immediately noticed that he had returned to the Ning family. When Lung Ruoxue found out that her godfather had lost his temper because of their trip to Yu City, she did not immediately coax him back. After all, in her heart, her godfather was just in a fit of anger. He would be fine after a few days. Thus, she placed all her attention on making the antidote for her senior brother. As for the head elder and Cheng-Wu, the two of them were always following behind Song. Although they didn't know Song's true identity, this didn't stop them from becoming his loyal followers. As for Uncle Long and Aojie, they would stay in the Yao family building when they were free. Of course, their main purpose was the food there because Schwer did not have time to make good food for them at the moment. Therefore, the two of them had to rely on themselves. Chapter 2061. Side Branch of the Ning Family 1. Half a month later, Lung Ruoxue, who had been making antidotes for Bing Yao, had not appeared in front of Uncle Long and Aojie. Seeing this, the two of them could not help but feel anxious. "I say, old whale, it's been half a month. Has that girl still not succeeded?" In the garden, Aojie glanced at Uncle Long and said gloomily. He thought that he would see Bing Yao alive and kicking a long time ago. Who knew that girl had been in the room for half a month without any news? "I don't think so. AI." Uncle Long was also a little worried, but he wasn't an alchemist, so he couldn't help the girl. They didn't know what the situation was, so they could only wait outside. At this moment, Song took small steps with two followers behind him. The two people and one beast walked into the garden slowly. After seeing Uncle Dragon and Aojie's bitter faces, Song smiled and said, "You two little fellows, what are you so worried about?" Hearing the word little fellow, Uncle Dragon and Aojie were depressed. They had always used the word little fellow on others. But now, with Song, the old man who had lived longer, the two of them had to stand aside and become little fellows. Ooh, what the hell was this? First Elder and Cheng-Wu, who were following behind Song, twitched their lips when they heard little fellow. It was not the first time they heard Song call Uncle Long and Aojie that, but every time they heard it, they felt as if crows were flying over their heads. They knew that Uncle Long and Aojie were so depressed that they were about to vomit blood, but they were also depressed. Uncle Dragon and Aojie had become little guys, so they naturally became the little guys that Song mentioned. At the thought of this, the First Elder and Cheng-Wu could not help but look at each other. They thought to themselves, I wonder how high the seniority of this Totoro is. Uncle Long and Ao Jia did not have any doubts about the name little fellow. I really want to know its origin. Unfortunately, they didn't tell anyone. Their curiosity was like a cat scratching at them. However, when they thought about how Uncle Long and Ao Jia kept their mouths shut about Song's identity and how powerful Song was, the first elder and Chengwu held back. When they saw Song jump onto the stone table, the two of them immediately took out a warm and thick cushion and laid it on the table. When Song saw it, he nodded in satisfaction and then laid on it like a lord. Uncle Long and Ao Jia looked at the first elder, and Cheng was fawning behavior in disdain. Why didn't they realize that these two were so good at sucking up? Now he had finally experienced it. Little guys, do you have something on your mind? Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Azure could only ask again. However, his fiery eyes were red as he said, "Don't make me repeat myself." Uncle Dragon and Ao Jia could not help but shiver. Then they said at the same time, "We're worried about Bing Yao. I wonder how Shui Er's antidote is going." "What's there to worry about? You should have more confidence in the girl." First elder calmly interjected. Then his hand gently stroked Song's body, stroking its fur. Azure snorted comfortably and nodded in agreement. Yes, you should have more confidence in that little girl. She will succeed. In reality, no one knew better than it about its future master's condition. In reality, Lung Ruoxua had refined countless antidotes in the past half a month, but it was a pity that they all ended in failure. Of course, it wasn't appropriate to tell others about this. Otherwise, it would only bring endless pressure to these people. Hence, Azure could only pretend to be deaf and not report the good news. "I know. I'm actually very confident in that girl." Uncle Long nodded. However, as soon as he said that, he received a disdainful look from Ao Jia. Ao Jia then added, "I also believe that." The two of them looked at each other in disdain, then turned their heads away at the same time, ignoring each other. At this moment, Lung Ruoxua, who was working hard to refine an antidote for her senior brother, was starting to feel frustrated. She had refined it countless times, but not once had she succeeded. This was all because the blood cherry blossom petals were too overbearing, and the supplementary medicinal ingredients were unable to fuse with it. This fact gave her a great headache. As they watched Lung Ruoxua walk around the alchemy room in the purple bamboo house, Green Vessel, and the demon felt helpless. However, they were more worried about Lung Ruoxia's condition. If she could not refine the antidote successfully, it would become an inner demon, and it would be detrimental to Lung Ruoxia's future cultivation. At the thought of this, the two of them looked at each other. Then the demon pulled Lung Ruoxua and said, "Shuer, take a rest. Let's go out for a walk." He was really worried that something would happen to Shuer if she continued to be in this state. Lung Ruoxua looked at the demon's worried face and nodded. Then, with a change of mind, she brought the demon out of the bracelet and into the garden. When they saw Lung Ruoxua an evildoer, Uncle Long and Ao Jia quickly came to her side and asked with concern, "Shuer." Just as they said these two words, they realized that Lung Ruoxia's spirit was a little dispirited and listless. At that moment, the two of them swallowed their questions. "This is Shuer." Hearing the conversation between Uncle Dragon and Ao Jia, the great elder asked in disbelief, "How did Shuer become a man?" He clearly remembered that Shuer was still a woman when she came back, but now, the man in front of him was a complete stranger. In reality, Lung Ruoxua was originally a man. As the green vessel's skill had not expired, it was impossible for her to recover. However, she was afraid that her godfather and first elder would not be used to it, so she had deliberately concealed it when she came back. However, when she came out of the bangle this time, she forgot to continue concealing it. This was why First Elder was so surprised when he saw her. Cheng Wu's mouth was also half open as he looked at Lung Ruoxua in disbelief. He was completely dumbfounded. Of course it's Shuer. In order to hide her identity and make it easier for her to move, she temporarily changed her gender. "Don't make a fuss about it." Uncle Long pretended to be angry when he saw the two of them, but he couldn't help but think to himself, from the looks of it, Shuer didn't succeed in refining the antidote. Oh, if Shuer didn't say anything, then they shouldn't ask. At the same time, Uncle Long gave Aojia a look, signaling him to keep his mouth shut. Aojia was already a little worried when he saw Lung Ruoxia's dispirited look. Now that he received Uncle Long's hint, he naturally kept his mouth shut. When the first elder and Cheng Wu heard what Uncle Long had to say, they tactfully shut their mouths and did not speak. Both of them could tell that Lung Ruoxia was not in a good mood. However, they could not suppress the curiosity in their hearts. They were really too curious. How did her gender change? Although they were curious, they had to keep their curiosity to themselves when they saw Lung Ruoxia's appearance. At this moment, both of them felt as if there were countless kittens scratching at their hearts, making them itch. Chapter 2062. Side branch of the Ning family, Tutsong, who was originally lying on the stone table, jumped into Lung Ruoxia's arms and let her hug him. He even found a comfortable position, and ignored the cold glares that were shot at him. He half closed his eyes with a satisfied expression. Lung Ruoxia caressed Song Song's chubby and round little body in her arms. She then looked at the worried Uncle Long and Aojia, as well as First Elder and Cheng Wu, who wanted to say something but stopped. Both of them were holding back their words until their faces were red. Lung Ruoxia smiled and asked, "Where's Godfather? Are you still angry?" "It should be. I haven't seen him for half a month." First Elder quickly said, "I'll go see Godfather." Lung Ruoxia sighed helplessly. "Girl, there's no need to look. That little fellow is no longer here." Azure said, "What?" Lung Ruoxia didn't quite understand Song's words. Could it be that Godfather had already left? But why didn't anyone tell her? However, when she saw that the First Elder and the others also had question marks on their faces, she suddenly realized that they didn't know either. That little guy left. Ever since he found out about what happened in U City, he left. Song made his words even clearer. Then he looked innocently at Lung Ruoxia and started to play with his claws. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lung Ruoxia was shocked. She didn't go and coax her godfather when he left. With his temper, wouldn't he go crazy with anger? "I saw that you were busy, so I didn't tell you. However, this was not a big deal. You don't have to worry. Maybe in a few days, that little guy will come back on his own." Azure said with a look of disapproval. "Godfather must be really angry this time. I'd better go to the Ning family's divine realm to coax Godfather." Lung Ruoxia said after some thought. It just so happened that her mood had been very irritable recently. Under such circumstances, it wasn't suitable for her to continue refining pills. Hence, she would just take it as going there to relax. "Little girl, I'll go with you," First Elder quickly said. However, he felt a little awkward when he said the word girl. It was really strange that the man in front of him was calling her girl. However, Lung Ruoxia did not know about First Elder's dilemma. Following that, she heard Cheng Wu say that he wanted to follow them, so she said, "If you leave, what will happen to the Yao clan? The Yao family building is already on the right track, so I don't need to stay there all day. Besides, isn't there Uncle Long? I believe that no one without eyes would dare to find trouble with the Yao clan." Cheng Wu said with confidence, "Yes, I'm here. Swear, just let them go with you." After hearing what Cheng Wu said, Uncle Long glared at him before chuckling at Lung Ruoxia. He knew that it was time for Shuer to go out for a walk and change her mood. Although Cheng Wu felt a little aggrieved after receiving Uncle Long's glare, he did not dare to show it. He could only stand obediently by Lung Ruoxia's side like a little wife. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxia chuckled and said to Uncle Long, "Then I'll have to trouble Uncle Long with everything at home. What's so troublesome about our own family matters? Shuer, go and have fun. Don't be in such a hurry to come back." Uncle Long said with a smile. "Yes." Lung Ruoxia nodded. Even though Uncle Long told her not to rush back, she still planned to return immediately after coaxing her godfather. After all, she was still worried about her senior brother's injuries. Following that, Lung Ruoxia's group of 4 people and 1 beast prepared to head to the Ning family's divine realm. The Ning clan's divine territory was not too far away from the land of evil demons. If they were to fly or teleport, they would be able to reach it in half a day. However, they knew that Lung Ruoxia was not in a good mood. Hence, The 3 humans and 1 beast strongly suggested that they walk to the Ning clan's divine territory. Just like that, the 4 humans and 1 beast traveled lightly. They planned to walk and have fun all the way before they set off. After walking for close to 3 days, they passed by 2 small towns. After staying a night in each of the 2 small towns, they continued on their way. At this time, they were not far from the Ning clan's divine realm. However, there were no more small towns in front of them that they could stay in. Hence, Lung Ruoxue and the rest chose to stay out in the wild for the next few nights. However, with her and the first elder around, they naturally did not need to set up tents. Instead, they stayed in the houses that they brought along with them. On this day, Lung Ruoxue and the rest had just finished their dinner when they heard someone knocking on the door. Chengwu went to take a look and saw 5 men and 1 woman, a total of 6 people. It looked like they were planning to stay overnight. After opening the door and confirming the purpose of their visit, he reported the situation to Lung Ruoxue and the rest. Before Lung Ruoxue could say anything, First Elder immediately said, "No, we can't just let strangers stay overnight. Tell them to find another place. They're not welcome here." The Great Elder refused firmly and decisively. He didn't want to cause trouble for them in the middle of the night. Yes. Chengwu nodded. He did not like strangers either. Immediately after, Chengwu turned around to inform the others that they had refused to let them stay the night. After Chengwu left, Azure smiled and said, "I'm afraid that those people won't be easy to send away. Although it was in someone else's divine artifact, as long as it wanted to know the situation of the divine realm, it absolutely could not be hidden from it. And with a slight sweep of its divine sense, it knew that those few people were very troublesome. Therefore, towards the Great Elder's refusal, it was very supportive. After all, in this wilderness, if one's heart was too good, it was very easy for things to go wrong. This is our territory. What are they trying to do?" The Great Elder said with a face full of disdain. Although his strength was not considered high in the divine world, he believed that no one would dare to act rashly in front of him given his status. Moreover, these few people in front of him were not to be trifled with. As soon as the Great Elder finished speaking, they heard the sound of disputes. Filled with boredom and curiosity, Lung Ruoxue and the others arrived at the main entrance. They saw Chengwu quarreling with the 5 men and 1 woman until their faces and ears were red. Moreover, from Chengwu's angry appearance, it was obvious that he was quite angry. As for the 5 men and 1 woman, they were all very beautiful. However, the strongest among the 5 was only a god king, while the woman was a god-tier master. "Chengwu, what happened?" Lung Ruoxue frowned slightly and asked indifferently, "Young master, these people want to stay the night, and even want to force their way in." Chengwu turned his head and complained. Along the way, he had already changed his way of addressing Lung Ruoxue as young master for convenience's sake. Although he was not used to it, he still put on a good front in front of outsiders. "There's such a thing? Where did these little guys come from? You don't understand the rules." Hearing this, the First Elder was enraged. Seeing that the Great Elder seemed to be able to make a decision and his strength was unfathomable, one of the men among the 5 men and 1 woman bowed slightly and said with a smile, "Senior, this is the outskirts. It's very inconvenient to sleep outside. And we have girls here, so we hope that Senior can make it convenient for us to stay for a night. We will be very grateful." The man's words were unusually polite, but the First Elder's brows were tightly furrowed. Clearly, he was not interested in these words. Then he heard the First Elder huffing angrily. "What's wrong with a girl? Just because there's a girl, you guys can force your way in?" Chapter 2063. Side Branch of the Ning Family 3. Senior, this is definitely a misunderstanding. We just want to find someone who can make the decision, and we don't mean to force our way in. Moreover, we just want to stay for a night. We are not bad people, we are all people of the Ning family, so please rest assured." The man continued. The smile on his face was very gentle, and he definitely looked like a gentle and refined person. When the Great Elder heard the man's words, he pondered for a moment and asked, "You're from the Ning family. What's your name?" There were many people in the Ning family, but since they were from the Ning family, for the sake of Old Man Ning, They really couldn't just keep them outside the door like before. I'm Ning Xiao, and these are my clan brothers and sisters. Ning Xiao introduced. After he finished speaking, he took out a token that represented the Ning family's identity. In fact, they were only from the Ning family's side branches. However, the token of the Ning family's direct branch and the side branch only had a slight difference. Unless it was someone who was particularly familiar with the Ning family, it would be very difficult to distinguish them. Thus, the Ning family's identity token had always been useful in the divine realm, and it was also a symbol of their identity. Oh, glancing at the token Ning Xiao took out, and then at the other four, the Great Elder said, "Since you're the Ning family's little guys, I'll let you stay for one night." As soon as the Great Elder's words came out, Ning Xiao and the others immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Then Ning Xiao gave the other four a look, and the five of them said gratefully, "Many thanks, senior." Following that, Lung Ruoxia instructed Cheng Wu to prepare guest rooms for the 5 members of the Ning family. After that, the 4 of them and the beast went to the living room to continue their conversation. Sitting in the living room, Lung Ruoxia looked at First Elder with a faint smile and teased, "I thought the Great Elder would fight with the 5 of them. I didn't expect you to change your mind." Hehe. If they weren't people of the Ning family, I would have really beaten them out. But since they're people of the Ning family, I still have to give Old Man Ning some face, even though these little guys are just side branches of the Ning family. The Great Elder said matter-of-factly. Old Man Ning had left in a fit of anger, so he must be angry with him. Therefore, he had to find a way to appease him. Otherwise, when the old man got angry, the consequences would be very serious. He just didn't know who would be the unlucky one. I don't like them. At this moment, Song, who was lying comfortably in Lung Ruoxia's arms, spoke indifferently. It especially hated that woman's gaze because that woman treated it as a pet. This was preposterous. Not to mention that it was not a pet. Even if it was a pet, it was not something that anyone could dream of. Don't worry, Senior Song, they're only staying for one night, so they won't be of any trouble to you. The First Elder said with a fawning expression. I hope so, Song said indifferently, but from its voice, it seemed to be very important. In fact, Song was very clear that apart from the one called Ning Xiao, who seemed to be quite well behaved, the other 4 were not easy to deal with, especially the woman. Her strength was not high, but her ability to cause trouble was unparalleled. Otherwise, why would they insist on staying? However, it didn't intend to say these words out loud. In its heart, as long as those people didn't provoke it, it would be fine. Once they dared to provoke it, then they couldn't blame it for being ruthless. It didn't even give face to the Divine Master, so what could the little guys of the Ning family do? While Lung Ruoxia and the rest were discussing the 6 people, the 5 men and 1 woman were also chatting in the room. The 6 of them were currently gathered in the same room. The 5 men were all sitting on the chairs, drinking hot tea, while the only woman was constantly touching the room. Ning Xiaogich, this house is so beautiful. These decorations don't look cheap. At this time, the woman's hand was touching a crystal-clear vase that looked like crystal. In her joy, she couldn't help but play with the vase in her hand. The more she looked at it, the more she liked it. Ning Huan, put down the vase in your hand and don't touch the things here. If Master finds out, he'll kick us out. Ning Xiao saw Ning Huan's eyes light up when she saw the vase, and she suddenly felt a headache. This damn Ning Huan, why couldn't she change this bad habit no matter where she went? She wanted everything she saw and had caused them a lot of trouble along the way. However, the other 4 people still thought that she was in high demand and pampered her without any principles, spoiling her to the point where she was lawless. Sure enough, after hearing Ning Xiao's words, a man with a face full of displeasure said, She's just a vase. If Huan Huan likes it, we can just buy it. What's the big deal? That's right, we're from the Ning family. After that old man found out, he still obediently let us stay for the night. Humph. They said they wouldn't agree no matter what, but they immediately agreed when they heard our identity. So with our identity, let alone buying it from them. Even if we want a vase, what can we do? Someone immediately chimed in, his face still full of disapproval. Ning Xiao was so angry that he felt depressed, but he was too lazy to argue with them. He just sneered in his heart. A group of blind fools. Do you think the owner of this house is easy to mess with? Why didn't he think about how a house would appear in the wilderness? If he didn't guess wrong, this house should be the legendary spatial divine artifact that could allow people to live in. And the owner of such a divine artifact, would he be easy to get along with? He even guessed that the owner of this house was not inferior to the Ning family's ancestor in terms of status. With this thought, he was even more certain in his heart, and made up his mind that no matter what the other 5 people wanted to do, he would never get involved with them. And in the end, the facts proved that his choice was wise. Then Ning Xiao stood up and warned the other 5. I advise you all to be more honest. We're about to reach the Ning family's divine realm. Don't cause any more trouble. Otherwise, don't blame me for not doing anything. With that, Ning Xiao turned and left. Looking at his back view, Ning Huan pouted her pink lips in grievance and said with tears in her beautiful eyes, Brother Ning Xiao, are you angry with me? I didn't mean to cause trouble. That's right, the main reason she caused trouble was because she liked something too much. As she thought about this, the expression on her face became more and more dazzling. Her pitiful look made the other 4 people feel tender and protective towards her. All of them felt sorry for her, and started to coax Ning Huan. Huan, why should you care about that hypocrite's words? With us here, you can naturally do whatever you want. I'm sure that no one would dare to cause trouble for our Ning family. A certain man patted his chest and promised. His eyes were lecherously peeking at Ning Huan's perky chest. He couldn't help but swallow his saliva, as if a fire was burning in his heart. When the other 3 saw this, they naturally did not want to be outdone and coaxed. That's right. Huan, you're the daughter of the Ning family. As long as you like something, people should take the initiative to give it to you, so you don't have to feel any pressure. Just tell us what you like and we'll get it for you. Really? Ning Huan was secretly happy, but the expression on her face was still uncertain. She had a weak and fragile appearance, and with the deliberate act of pity, it was naturally easier for some men who were lustful to take pity on her. Of course. The 4 of them nodded at the same time. After they finished speaking, they stared at each other silently. After all, the 4 of them were love rivals. Even if they could get along peacefully on the surface, they were secretly scheming against each other. However, Ning Huan didn't care about the undercurrent between them. To her, the most important thing was to get her answer right. Then her cheeks flushed red, and she lowered her head shyly. I really like everything here, and that Snow White Totoro. If any of you can get me all of this, I can consider. Although she had only said half of her sentence, her meaning was clear. The 4 people understood what she meant. Immediately, the 4 of them promised in unison. Huan, don't worry. It'll definitely make your wish come true. After that, the 4 of them left together. Once they left, Ning Huan's beautiful face immediately revealed a mocking smile. She was even more lamenting in her heart. A bunch of idiots, how could she possibly take a fancy to them? In fact, she had a crush on someone for a long time, but she had never had the chance to get close to him. This time, she came to the Ning family's divine territory, and her chance might come. Therefore, she spared no effort to arrange tasks for those 4 people. The main purpose was to send them away or cause them some trouble, so that they couldn't continue to follow her. After all, they were about to reach the Ning family's divine territory. She didn't want these 4 people to still surround her. That was why she showed her desire for everything here, because she could also see that the people here were not to be trifled with. Moreover, she really liked this place and that cute Totoro. It would be good if those 4 people could really get all of this for her. If they couldn't, then they could only blame their bad luck. In short, no matter what the result was, she wouldn't suffer a loss. As she thought of this, the smile on her face became brighter and brighter. After the 4 of them left the room, they went to find Cheng Wu. When they saw Cheng Wu, the 4 of them went straight to the point and said their thoughts. We want to buy this house and that Totoro. Name a price. Chapter 2064. Can you give it to me? 1. The 4 of them spoke with such confidence that it was only natural. Cheng Wu was stunned when he heard that. He asked with his mouth half open. What are you guys talking about? That. You didn't hear wrong, right? We said, we want to buy this house and that Totoro. Name your price. One of them repeated. After he finished speaking, he even glanced at Chengwu with a disdainful look and secretly sighed in his heart. What a pity. This person was so tall and strong, but he was actually a fool. Only after the man finished speaking did Chengwu confirm that he had not misheard. However, after confirming, his mouth opened even wider, and he was unable to say anything for a long time. This further confirmed the fact that he was a little silly in the eyes of those people. Of course, Chengwu did not know what those 4 people were thinking. Otherwise, he would have kicked them out of the house. Seeing that Chengwu did not respond for a long time, the 4 of them grew impatient and continued to ask, "We are asking you a question. Are you going to sell this house and that Totoro or not? Give me a reaction." I'm just a follower. I can't make the decision on this matter. Chengwu finally came back to his senses. He wiped the cold sweat off his forehead without a change in expression. His little heart trembled as he thought to himself, are these people really from the Ning family? He really wondered how the Ning family could be so stupid. Even if they had not seen much of the world and did not know the value of this house, they should not be so confident, right? Did they really think that the Ning family was omnipotent in the divine realm? The more Chengwu thought about it, the more he felt contempt. This was the tragedy of a big family. Their descendants were mixed with good and bad people. Therefore, at this moment, he really felt that it was not good to have too many children in the family. As the number of children increased, they would definitely neglect to educate some of the children with lower IQs. That was why they had raised such a group of idiots. He sighed to himself, but when the 4 people heard his words, they immediately said in dissatisfaction, "Why didn't you say so earlier? Can you afford to waste our time?" With that, the 4 of them flicked their sleeves and left to look for the person who had the final say. Chengwu stared at the back of the 4 of them, dumbfounded, and remained silent for a long time. And this was his fault? Did you? What kind of people were these? Chengwu was so angry that his heart was trembling, and he made up his mind to have a good talk with his young miss about this matter. These idiots were really too infuriating. Terrible. He suddenly thought that these morons might have gone to look for his miss. After he came back to his senses, he quickly went to look for Lung Ruoxue and watched the show while he was at it. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue, the demon, and Song were still in the living room. Only the first elder was not present. When Chengwu entered and saw the 2 of them and the beast, he went straight to the point and asked angrily, "Miss, have those idiots arrived yet?" "What idiot?" When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she raised her head in shock and turned her beautiful eyes towards Chengwu Dao. "It's those idiots from the Ning family." When Chengwu saw this, he suddenly realized that he had come too quickly. After all, this was not the Ning family. How could it be so easy for those people to find the young lady and the others? However, Chengwu didn't care if they had been here or not. He directly told Lung Ruoxue what the 4 of them had told him. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she exchanged glances with the demon and raised her brows. She said indifferently, "Oh, I didn't expect them to have such thoughts. However, they never came to me. Miss, if they come to find you, what are you going to do?" Chengwu asked expectantly. A glint flashed across his eyes, and he was obviously gloating. "What can I do? This house isn't mine, and as for Tsang, it hasn't acknowledged me as its owner yet, so I don't have the right to make the decision. I can't make the decision as a bystander." Lung Ruoxue laughed evilly. As she spoke, she stroked Tsang's soft and smooth fur in her arms. She laughed in her heart. Those Ning clansmen were really blind. They actually dared to have designs on this house and Tsang. However, the house they were currently living in was the Great Elder's. Therefore, she was really not sure how the Great Elder would handle this matter. As for Tsang, after hearing Chengwu's words, he did not even have any expression on his face. Lung Ruoxue's stroking made him so comfortable that he closed his eyes and snorted. However, not long after Lung Ruoxue's words left her mouth, they could clearly hear First Elder's furious roar. "Fuck! You guys don't understand human language, do you? I said I'm not selling it, so I'm not selling it." Hearing the First Elder's vulgarities, Lung Ruoxue and the others exchanged glances and walked out of the door together. In the courtyard, there were 4 people surrounding the Great Elder. taking turns to bombard him with words. I say, senior, don't be so heartless. It's just a house. We're willing to pay a high price for it. Just sell it to us. The words of the person who spoke were quite pleasant to the ears. Those who were not pleasant to the ears and had bad tempers said directly, Old man, it's your honor that our Ning family has taken a fancy to your house. Don't be ungrateful. There's no benefit to you in offending our Ning family. Do you all still want to continue living in the divine realm? Quickly sell us the house. That's right. Old senior. You don't look young and the location of this house is not good. The money we gave you is enough for you to buy a house in the city. Why are you so stubborn? Someone else said. The last person also said anxiously, I say, why are you guys talking so much nonsense with him? We're interested in his house, so he has to sell it no matter what. Is this really up to him? Yes, this matter is not up to him. If he doesn't sell the house to us, then don't blame us for being impolite. Even if we have to rob him, we have to get this house. The man with the bad temper continued to interject. Listening to the four people's coaxing and carrot-and-stick words, the great elder found that he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fuck. What the hell is this? How did the brains of the Ning family's side branches grow? They actually wanted to use their power to pressure him and force him to sell his house. After his repeated rejections, these people completely revealed their ugly faces and even started singing the good and bad cop songs. Did she think that he would compromise? He had been worried that he had no reason to fight the angry old man Ning to a draw. With these people here and the things they've done, old man Ning probably won't have the face to continue being angry at them. Hee. The great elder's mood instantly brightened as he thought of this. For a moment, the way he looked at the four people in front of him was somewhat different. It was full of warmth and his attitude was also very kind. Unfortunately, he still said the same thing. I'm not selling the house. Seeing the great elder being so stubborn, the four of them were all a little angry. They had said all the good things and used both soft and hard tactics for a long time. They had even brought up the Ning family, but they still couldn't force this old man to agree to sell the house. This fact made them feel unusually defeated. He didn't expect this old man to be such a tough bone to chew. Chapter 2065. Can you give it to me? 2. It should be known that they had done this kind of thing many times in the past, but those people were much easier to deceive than this half-grown old man in front of them. As long as the Ning family was mentioned, almost everyone would choose to give up their own objects to avoid angering the Ning family, but this old man in front of them was obviously not afraid of this at all. For a moment, the four of them were extremely conflicted. However, they didn't know that the first elder really hoped that they would make a big deal out of this. Otherwise, they would only be more depressed. In fact, although the four of them always used the Ning family's banner to intimidate others, they were just paper tigers who were bluffing. In the past, it was their opponents who were afraid of the Ning family's power, and they would retreat after being intimidated by them. Therefore they, who had always been successful, now really did not know how to deal with the dilemma in front of them, as well as this difficult old man. But if they were asked to give up, they would feel embarrassed. After all, the four of them had boasted in front of Huan. Breaking a woman's promise. Was that still something a man should do? At the thought of this, the four of them looked at each other unwillingly. Then one of them said fiercely, Old man, you can't afford to offend our Ning family. You'd better not refuse a toast and drink a forfeit. Just obediently give up this house. It's not like we're not giving you money. With the money we've given you, your family can find a place to settle down in the city. Why do you have to live in the wilderness? So, while we still have some patience, quickly transfer this house to us. Don't make us rob you. That would be meaningless. His words were a little soft and hard. After all, they didn't want to fall out with this old man until the last moment. After hearing his words, the first elder couldn't help but think to himself, how could it be boring? If you have the ability, then snatch it. He couldn't wait for them to do something like robbing. That way, he would be able to show off in front of old man Ning. With this intention in mind, first elder remained unmoved in front of the four of them. Lung Ruoxue, the three humans, and the beast eavesdropped for a while in the dark before they walked over. What's wrong? What happened? Lung Ruoxua played dumb. Her beautiful eyes swept across the 4 people of the Ning family, but her words were directed at the Great Elder. They want to buy our house and your Totoro pet. The Great Elder's mouth twitched slightly. They had taken a fancy to his house and were rude to him. He could forgive them for Old Man Ning's sake, but they had provoked Song, the Totoro who refused to admit that he was a Totoro. These guys' good days were probably over. However, looking at Song's calm appearance, could it be that this was the calm before the storm? Although he hadn't been with Song for a long time, he had never thought that Song had a good temper. However, he couldn't understand Song's thoughts. He didn't know what terrifying things this calm fellow would do. They even dared to level the Divine Master's estate. So what couldn't the Ning family do? Ugh. God bless. I hope that Old Man Ning can protect the Ning family's main residence. He secretly prayed for the master of the Ning family in his heart, and then looked at the 4 people with some sympathy. He could already foresee their miserable future. At this moment, Lung Ruoxua, who had pretended to have just heard the news, only replied with a soft, "Oh," and did not continue the conversation. Instantly, someone exploded in anger. Fuck. Wasn't this pretty boy looking down on the Ning family? What was the meaning of a simple "oh"? The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He simply shouted, "You guys listen up. We want this house. We also want this Totoro. You'll have to sell it even if you don't want to. That's right. If you don't want to sell it, we'll just have to rob you." Immediately, someone chimed in. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxia's face was filled with black lines as she rolled her eyes. Who the hell are these people? Originally, on the account of her godfather, she had wanted to let them live. Who knew that these people would actually be so reckless? If that's the case, then don't blame her for being impolite. However, before Lung Ruoxua could react, Song said with an unhappy expression, "You guys stole my lines." Yes, this was what it always said, and no one dared to say it in front of it. Therefore, everything they were experiencing at this moment made it quite surprised. At the same time, it could not understand how that little guy of the Ning family could have such a superb descendant. Fortunately, these people were only from the side. If they were from the main family, it would definitely exterminate them, so as not to embarrass himself in the immortal realm. After hearing Song's words, the 4 people of the Ning family couldn't help but laugh. Ha ha ha. Is this your line? You're just a Totoro who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken, and you actually dare to say such big words. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? The 4 of them treated Song's words as a joke. However, Song wasn't angry and continued to say calmly, "You'll know if I'm boasting or not after you try. However, I'm too lazy to deal with you right now, so you'll be able to escape for the time being." Azure was very calm, but his words made the 4 people laugh even more wildly. She glanced at the 4 of them and smiled at Lung Ruoxua. "Girl, I'm sleepy. Take me to sleep." After saying that, Cold completely ignored the 4 people who were laughing wildly, and only looked at Evildoer provocatively. As expected, Evildoer was angered to death by Cold's words. He kept cursing in his heart. What did that guy say? Let Schwer bring it to sleep? He was simply dreaming. How could he allow such a thing to happen? As he thought of this, the evildoer rudely grabbed Song from Lung Ruoxia's arms and threw him to the Great Elder. Then he teleported and disappeared from his original spot. Seeing this, Song smiled nonchalantly and looked up at the Great Elder. "Little fellow, bring me back to my room to sleep." It was afraid that if it stayed here any longer, it would not be able to resist tearing these 4 ants in front of it into pieces. All right. Song's words caused a few drops of cold sweat to fall from the Great Elder's forehead. One had to know that he never thought that Song needed to sleep. However, since Song said so, he naturally had to cooperate. So without thinking, he left the 4 people of the Ning family and directly disappeared with Song. Seeing that he was the only one left, Chung Wu was stunned for a moment before he left as well. Of course, the 4 people from the Ning family were ignored. He was completely ignored. This fact immediately made the 4 people extremely angry. Damn it. These things that didn't know what was good for them were really too infuriating. You're actually leaving us behind. Some people cursed at the injustice. The anger in their hearts was rising. More importantly, they couldn't understand how things had developed to this point. They wanted to buy a house, but the other party was not willing to sell it. Shouldn't they be in a deadlock and not give in? However, how did the Totoro make everyone disappear when it said it wanted to sleep? Chapter 2066. Can you give it to me? 3. This unreasonable fact made them extremely confused. Moreover, no matter how they threatened, bribed, and used both soft and hard tactics, not only did the other party not buy it, but he also had an indifferent look. This made them deeply feel as if they had punched cotton. This kind of feeling could really drive people crazy. And now, the four of them were so mad that they wanted to scratch the wall. If they were to just run around aimlessly without an audience or any reaction, what would they feel? It was really desolate no matter how he thought about it. The four of them were so angry that they stomped their feet, but they had no way to vent their anger. They could only roar at the sky a few times to vent their anger, then went back to their own rooms listlessly. This army is at a disadvantage. Did you? They were originally full of enthusiasm, but now they suffered a blow and had a sleepless night. After the Grand Elder carried Song back to his room, he immediately asked with a fawning smile, "Senior Song, I wonder how you plan to deal with those four?" He was simply too curious, and his heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat. "They're just four little ants. I don't intend to teach them a lesson. If you have any ideas, go ahead, don't mind me. However, you have to bring out my share." Song Qing glanced at the Great Elder and said. Its meaning was also very obvious. It wanted the Great Elder to remember to count in his share when he dealt with those four people. When the Great Elder heard this, he immediately beamed with joy and explained, "Senior Song, don't worry. I will definitely not let them off. However, I still want to keep those people for the time being. They still have other uses. Do as you see fit. Don't make me do it, or no one will be able to bear the consequences." Azure said with a faint smile. The corner of the first elder's mouth involuntarily twitched when he heard this. These words were not false. Not many people could bear the consequences of Song's actions. Just think about how miserable the God Lord's manor had ended up. The next day, Ning Huan couldn't wait to find the four of them early in the morning to ask about the results. When she saw the four of them looking depressed and hesitating to say something, she knew that she had not succeeded. She was instantly enraged. "How can you be so useless? You can't even handle such a small matter?" Ning Huan looked at the four of them in disdain. We've talked to them, but they didn't agree to sell us the house and the Totoro." The four of them explained gloomily. "Not selling? Then can't you think of a way? It's not like we've never done this before. Why can't we do it this time?" Ning Huan roared in anger. After staying here for a night, she had changed her mind. She had not been too keen on owning this house. She had to get this house. And that cute Totoro. She was also determined to get it. Who asked her to completely fall in love with this place in just one night? Moreover, through the skylight of the house, she could clearly see the beauty of the starry sky at night. In short, she loved everything here so much that she could not let go. After staying here for a night, the desire to own this place had taken root in her heart and sprouted. It had grown into a towering tree overnight. Once such thoughts were formed, they could not be erased no matter what. Therefore, she had already secretly vowed in her heart that she would definitely have everything here. She had come to the four people excitedly to ask for the results, only to hear them tell her that they were not willing to sell. This news made her unable to conceal the anger in her heart. After venting all her anger on the four people in front of her, she still felt that it was not enough. After scolding the four people again, she turned around and left in anger. As they watched Ning Huan leave, the four of them became even more dispirited. "Are we really that useless?" Someone said. "It should be. AI. We can't even fulfill Wan Huan's simple request. We're really disappointing." Some people blamed themselves. At this time, the other two people stood up from their seats and walked out of the room without saying a word. The other two saw this and quickly followed. At the same time, Ning Huan, who had rushed out of the room in anger, went directly to Ning Xiao. asking him to help her get the house. However, after Ning Xiao heard Ning Huan's plan, he refused without thinking, causing Ning Huan to leave in a huff. After Ning Huan left, Ning Xiao couldn't help but sneer. She really didn't know what was good for her. How dare she try to get this house? He really didn't know if they were really stupid or just pretending to be stupid. Couldn't he tell that the identities of the people here were mysterious, and that their strength wasn't low? In their territory, would they care about the threat of the Ning family? Suddenly, he came to a sudden realization. If Ning Huan had offended the other party and the other party killed her in a fit of anger, wouldn't they become fish on the other party's knife without the slightest ability to fight back? No. As soon as this thought appeared, Ning Xiao's heart trembled with fear, and then he chased after her. Ning Huan, who had left Ning Xiao's place, saw that Ning Xiao was not willing to help. After cursing Ning Xiao in her heart, she decided to go and find the other party herself. She did not believe that the other party would not give face to a beauty like her. After learning from the four of them that the half-grown old man was the owner of the house, she decided to meet the old man. It didn't take much effort for her to see the great elder and the white Totoro in the garden. At this moment, Song was bored and lazily lying on the stone table. The first elder in front of him sat on the stone chair and looked at him with a smile. Ning Huan's eyes immediately lit up when she saw this. That's great. He didn't expect to find two of them at once. Moreover, the Totoro's current lazy appearance was really too cute. Ning Huan's eyes were brimming with pink bubbles. It was usually difficult for women to reject such a cute little animal, and Ning Huan was no exception. Her desire to get Song also became stronger. She had decided, after she got this house, she would definitely make the other party give her this Totoro as a bonus. Let's do it this way. After making up her mind, she walked forward. Are you the owner of this house? Ning Huan's voice was gentle, and she asked very politely. Yes, I am. What business does young lady have? The great elder's eyelids didn't even close as he indifferently asked. In fact, he and Song had long noticed that someone was approaching, but they didn't take it seriously. I like this house very much, and I want to buy it. Ning Huan pretended to be shy and said softly. Her beautiful eyes were full of tears and gentleness as she floated towards the first elder. She was flirting with him. However, the great elder, who had his head lowered, did not notice this at all. He only replied indifferently, I'm not selling. Song, who was still lying on the stone table, couldn't help but laugh in his heart. The beauty trap was here. AI. It seemed that it had lived for too long and was too bored. It was actually in the mood to watch a good show. Otherwise, it would not have let go of these eyesores. If it was in the past, it would have exterminated them long ago. Even their families would not be spared, but now, they were in the mood to watch a good show. Therefore, it simply closed its eyes and pretended to sleep. Ning Huan's anger rose again when she heard that she wasn't going to sell it. However, for the sake of the house and the adorable Totoro, she had to bear with it. After taking a deep breath, Ning Huan spoke again. If you don't want to sell it, I won't force you. Then, can you give it to me? Upon hearing this, the great elder raised his head in disbelief. His bright eyes stared at Ning Huan and sized her up. He couldn't help but think to himself. Is there something wrong with this little girl from the Ning family? How could he be so narcissistic? Seeing that he wasn't willing to sell it, he actually asked him to give it away. What kind of logic was this? He immediately came to an important conclusion for Ning Huan. This woman was seriously ill. Ning Huan didn't know that the first elder thought she was sick, but when she saw the first elder staring at her, she thought that he had a good impression of her. She gathered her courage and said, As long as you're willing to give me the house, I'll definitely repay you. How do you plan to repay me? The first elder's curiosity was piqued when he heard Ning Huan's words. He had lived for so long and met many people and things, but this was the first time he had met a woman who said that she would repay him. This was too horrifying. He was a little frightened. As for Ning Huan, who was not aware of it, she lowered her head even more. From the corner of her eyes, she would steal glances at the first elder from time to time. Her eyes were covered by her long eyelashes, and her eyes kept rolling around. Her heart was full of schemes. Although the man in front of her looked a little old, he was not bad looking. So Ning Huan felt that if she seduced him once, it wouldn't be too much of an injustice. She kept telling herself in her heart that everything was for the house, and the Totoro that was in addition to the house. Moreover, she felt that this wasn't really seducing him, but just using his beauty to put on an act. With that thought in mind, Ning Huan put on an expression of going all out. Then she lowered her head even more and said in a low voice, "If you're willing to give me this house, I'm willing to repay you with my body." Shwa shwa. The first elder had just picked up the teacup on the stone table, but after hearing these words, he was so frightened that his hand trembled, and the teacup fell to the ground, splashing tea all over. What did you just say? The great elder's expression was a little unsightly, and his little heart was beating wildly in anger. In his heart, although the woman in front of him was a little annoying, she was still old man Ning's descendant. But now, the unfilial grandson of his good friend actually wanted to seduce him for a house. This was really... He was so angry that he didn't know what to do. Chapter 2067. Another incident. 1. The great elder was so angry that his entire body was trembling. However, in Ning Huan's eyes, this was seen as excitement. Instantly, a trace of pride flashed across Ning Huan's face. She knew that no man could reject her. Then, Ning Huan pointed at Song and continued, "You have to give me this Totoro as an extra, how about it? You didn't lose anything, did you?" She felt that the great elder had gained a great advantage. Of course, to what extent she could devote her body to him, that would depend on whether the old man in front of her would come up with something. Extra head. Extra head. When Azure heard these two words, he was so angry that all the hairs on his body stood up. Fuck. It was the spirit of the god-protecting pagoda, the powerful Tsong, but it was just an addition to the house. This was really infuriating. Thinking of this, Song squinted his dark eyes that were like star diamonds and sized up Ning Huan with a faint smile. Where should I start? Azure thought to himself. The first elder, who heard Ning Huan's bold and confident words again, was also frightened. Cold sweat broke out all over his body. Oh my god. What was he supposed to do? Song Bie was probably going to get angry, right? The great elder sneaked a glance at Song, only to realize that Song was only sizing up Ning Huan. Other than that, he did not have much of a reaction. However, the more this was the case, the more worried he was. Boss, please don't blame him for this. Sob. The great elder felt that his idea was very bad. That damn Ning Huan, not only did she have to give her body to this house, she even wanted Song to be her bonus. Was she worthy? Even if you want to die, you shouldn't do this. First elder was filled with hatred, but what he was most afraid of was that Ning Huan's words and actions would implicate him. However, the great elder saw that Song had not taken any action yet, so he could only endure it. At this moment, bang, bang, bang. After a few loud bangs, 4 balls rolled into the garden and reached the first elder's feet. The first elder's attention was distracted for a moment, and then he saw 4 men stand up from the ground. Motherfucker! Who kicked this young master? After one of them stood up, he immediately glared at the first elder and roared. Then he looked down and saw the first elder sitting on the stone chair. He was instantly enraged and shouted, "Is this your doing, old man?" The person who spoke was furious. Fuck. This old thing dared to snatch their woman? Why didn't he look at his own status? This was preposterous. Therefore, he immediately accused First Elder. The First Elder, who originally did not want to pay attention to these people, was stunned when he heard this. Then he said in a speechless manner, "I haven't moved since I sat here. How would I have the time to kick you? Who knows which corner you're hiding in? You can't accuse people like this." Although the great elder was a little angry, his tone was still calm and steady. However, in the ears of the 4 people, this calm tone was a sign of guilt and fear. If it wasn't you, then it must have been your subordinate. Another person said with certainty, "Oh really? May I ask why they are doing this?" The great elder said with a smile that was not a smile. Why couldn't some people use their brains before they spoke or did things? Did he really think that he had no temper? Yes. The great elder's temper was usually very good. Moreover, even if he was angry, he would not show it on his face. In addition, these people were from the Ning family, so he did not want to embarrass them too much. Unfortunately, some people did not know how to appreciate it. Instead, they thought that they were afraid of them. This fact made the great elder laugh. Who knows? I'll have to ask you, you old pervert. The person who spoke first said angrily. Old pervert? Was he talking about him? When did he become an old pervert? The great elder was very depressed. The old man from the Ning family had so many women, but no one dared to call him an old pervert. She had always been clean and honest, but now she had become an old pervert. Wasn't this bullying? Did he really look that easy to bully? The great elder once again began to doubt if his temper was too good. Just as he was about to show his strength to these people, and let them know how powerful he was, Song's eyes swept over him, and the great elder suppressed his anger. Woo! Could it be that Azure still hasn't played enough? The answer was of course yes. Song was extremely bored, and was worried about not having any toys. In the end, these few idiots came to his door, so Song naturally didn't want to let them go. Moreover, she also wanted them to experience the feeling of falling from heaven to hell. Don't look at how aggressive they are now and how powerful they seem. In a while, I will let them know what is called extreme joy begets sorrow. With such a thought, Song calmly laid on the stone table, squinting his eyes from time to time to size up the people in front of him, but he didn't say anything. Seeing it like this, the great elder simply shut his mouth. These people could say whatever they wanted to say, and he pretended not to hear them. Seeing them like this, the four of them became even angrier. Just as they were about to start scolding, they heard Ning Huan's displeased face as she frowned and questioned. What are you guys doing here? Leave now, I don't want to see you. Ning Huan was extremely angry. Weren't these people here to ruin things? They had been doing well and were about to succeed, but these idiots had suddenly come. Now all her previous efforts had been in vain. When she thought of this, she gritted her teeth in hatred. However, it was a good thing that First Elder and Song didn't know what Ning Huan was thinking. Otherwise, they would definitely ask, Miss Ning, where did you get your confidence from? When the four of them heard Ning Huan's words, they felt extremely aggrieved and unwilling. They said in unison, Huan, we're doing this for you. This old thing doesn't look like a good person, and he's not worthy of you. Upon hearing this, Ning Huan immediately rebuked. All of you shut up. I don't need you guys to meddle in my business. Then, she turned to the First Elder and said apologetically, I'm really sorry. They don't know how to talk. Please don't bother with them. Ning Huan's lungs were about to explode from anger. She spoke apologetically to the First Elder in a gentle voice, but her beautiful eyes were secretly staring at the four people who were causing trouble, her gaze containing a warning. Seeing this, the four of them were all like aggrieved little wives, not daring to say a word. Ning Huan tried her best to coax the Great Elder, but after a few words and a wink, she was interrupted by the Great Elder impatiently. All right. You don't have to say anything. I still have the same words. I'm not selling this house. After the Great Elder finished speaking, he picked up Song and left. As she watched the First Elder leave, the anger in Ning Huan's heart exploded uncontrollably. She glared at the four people who were an eyesore and scolded. You bunch of trash, it's fine if you can't do it on your own, but you actually came to disturb my business. You guys are really... The more Ning Huan thought about it, the angrier she became. In the end, she simply started to punch and kick the four people. However, Ning Huan's strength was low, so her fancy punches and kicks were no different from flirting in the eyes of the four people. Therefore, the four people who were hit not only were not angry, but they even put their faces in front of Ning Huan and smiled charmingly. Huan, let's fight. Rest for a while if you're tired, don't hurt your hand. Chapter 2068. Another incident, too. This is what you asked for. The furious Ning Huan laughed smugly. This was the most loyal dog by her side. He was so willing to be beaten. The performance of these four people completely satisfied Ning Huan's vanity. Then a pa sound was heard. Pa. The sound of a slap rang out in the garden that was supposed to be quiet. At this moment, Cheng Wu, who had been hiding in a corner of the garden, patted the shoulder of the man beside him and said with a faint smile, "Are these the descendants of your Ning family? That's really amazing." Hearing this, Ning Xiao suddenly felt his face burn, wishing there was a hole in the ground for him to crawl into. After a long while he mumbled in a low voice, How can they be worthy of being my Ning family? You don't have the final say in this matter. Quickly take them away. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that they'll be able to go to the Ning family's divine realm in full force." Cheng Wu said with a faint smile. How did you know we were going to the Ning family's god realm?" Cheng Wu's words shocked Ning Xiao. She couldn't help but think to herself, he didn't say that he wanted to return to the Ning clan's divine realm, right? Or did he just say that he didn't remember? If you don't want to go to the Ning family's domain, do you want to go to the Yao family's domain? Cheng Wu glanced at Ning Xiao as if he was looking at an idiot. This road only led to two directions. One was the Ning clan, and the other was the Yao clan. They were the same as him, coming from the direction of the Yao clan's divine realm. Naturally, they were going to the Ning clan's divine realm as well. Moreover, they were members of the Ning clan. Where else could they go if not the Ning clan? The Yao family's divine realm would definitely not welcome them. We're going back to the Ning clan's divine realm. Ning Xiao smiled awkwardly, feeling depressed. He also felt that he had asked a very stupid question. Ever since he started traveling with these people, his intelligence had also dropped. Then quickly take them away. If they continue to stay here, I can't guarantee that they will still have their heads and feet. Cheng Wu urged once again. His words were a little bloody, causing Ning Xiao to shiver uncontrollably. She hurriedly nodded her head. Well, leave now. After saying that, Ning Xiao immediately walked out from the shadows and summoned his spirit beast. It cooperated with him and led Ning Huan and the other four out of the garden, and left the house without looking back. After sensing that they had left, Cheng Wu immediately went to the living room where Leng Ruoxue and the rest were waiting for him. The moment he entered the living room, Cheng Wu could not help but ask, "Miss, are we just going to let them go?" He couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it. Logically speaking, if she had met such a person in the past, Miss should have taught him a lesson. Why was he so gentle this time? He could not understand. What else? Don't tell me you're going to treat them to breakfast? Leng Ruoxue laughed and teased. I didn't mean it that way. Cheng Wu started sweating. He hated those people so much. Why would he treat them to breakfast? Wasn't that just daydreaming? Little brat. After all, they are part of the Ning family, so we have to give face to Old Man Ning. If we want to deal with them, Old Man Ning has to come personally. At this moment, the first elder kindly explained. He and Leng Ruoxue had the same thought. Both of them were afraid that the old man would not be easy to coax. With this matter, they could give the old man a way out and make him embarrassed to continue being angry at them. Otherwise, how could those people leave this place so easily? Hearing the first elder's explanation, Cheng Wu Mauser was relieved. He had forgotten about Master Ning and smiled embarrassedly. Then he continued to ask, "Those people have already left. When are we leaving?" "In an hour." Leng Ruoxue said after some thought. She had deliberately delayed their departure by an hour, so that she would not bump into them again. Otherwise, if something were to happen again, it would not end well. However, while wishes were beautiful, reality was cruel. After Leng Ruoxue and the rest continued on their journey, they arrived at the Ning clan's divine territory in just half a day. They found an inn to stay in at the outskirts of the Ning clan's divine territory, and planned to continue their journey the next day. In the Ning family's divine realm, there were teleportation formations between cities. Therefore, they would be able to reach the Ning family's main city tomorrow. After dinner, the 4 humans and 1 beast each returned to their own rooms. However, the moment they entered their rooms, they all fainted at the same time. Song, who had followed Leng Ruoxue and the demon into the same room, saw this and his ink-black eyes flickered. His eyes rolled back and with a kick of his 4 legs, he fell into Leng Ruoxue's arms. Following that, a few black-robed men sneaked into their room and tied up the 4 men and 1 beast before taking them away. When they woke up, Leng Ruoxue and the rest pretended to be surprised to find that they were locked in a dark room. Other than their sparkling eyes, it was pitch black in front of them. Miss, we're too lousy at pretending to faint. However, I didn't expect the other party to fall for it. Chung Wu transmitted his voice to the rest of them with a depressed look. In fact, when they were having dinner, they found out that someone had added something to the food. In order to make the other party believe that they had really eaten the food, Song used a smokescreen. Then they returned to their rooms as planned and fainted at the right time, which led to this scene. Yep. A certain beast even shamelessly fainted in Shui Er's arms. The demon gritted his teeth in hatred. At that time, he really wanted to throw that shameless stinky beast out. After hearing evildoer's voice transmission, not only was Azure not angry, but he also laughed complacently. Seeing his smug look, evildoer's anger grew even more. However, when Song saw this, he pretended to be afraid and shrank into Lung Ruoxia's arms even more. He even nudged Lung Ruoxia's soft and full chest without a sound, looking at her with his demon-like eyes spewing fire. Damn it. If this wasn't the immortal realm, he would definitely cut this detestable fellow into 8 pieces to vent the hatred in his heart. This shameless beast actually relied on his small and cute size to lie in Shui Er's arms all day long. The more the evildoer thought about it, the angrier he became. The gaze he used to look at Song became more and more unfriendly, and the cold air from his body was released as if it was free. It scared the first elder and Chung Wu so much that they could not help but move to the side. Even so, their little hearts were trembling non-stop. AI. There were too many people he couldn't afford to offend these days. The two of them thought to themselves with lingering fear. When Lung Ruoxia saw this scene, she was about to console the evildoer when the door to their room was suddenly opened. A blinding light was reflected into the room. The few of them subconsciously looked up at the 4 men, and one woman standing at the door with a smug expression. A deep sense of helplessness welled up in their hearts. It seemed that it was hard to be a good person. They let these 5 guys leave unscathed, but who knew that not only did they not appreciate it, but they also did such a thing to them. They were truly helpless. Chapter 2069. Another incident 3. Let's make a deal. Ning Huan sized up the 4 people and 1 beast in front of her, and said with a faint smile. Her tone was also full of pride. What deal? If you still intend to devote yourself to me, I advise you to give up on that idea. I'm really not interested in you. The first elder feigned ignorance and said with a look of disdain. Lung Ruoxia and the rest were laughing in their hearts, but Ning Huan's expression was not as pleasant. Damn old man, who wants to devote myself to you? Why didn't he take a look at himself? Are you worthy of me? When Ning Huan heard the first elder's words, she retorted without holding back. She was furious because in her heart, she was the only one who could despise others, and she would never allow others to despise her. Therefore, the first elder had stepped on her reverse scale, coupled with the fact that she had said that she would devote her life to him. The anger in her heart was so strong that it was almost impossible to hide it. As soon as she finished her sentence, the other 4 people immediately echoed. That's right. Why don't you look at your own status? Do you think you're worthy of the young lady of our Ning family, an old man? Besides, you're all our prisoners now. Yet you still dare to talk so big. I think you're really tired of living. My identity? Oh. That's right, she, the young lady of the Ning family, really isn't worthy of my status. Moreover, so what if I'm a prisoner? We're not tired of living, on the contrary, we're very happy to be prisoners. The first elder was neither angry nor annoyed. Instead, he smiled and said, You old fart. You've become our prisoner, yet you still dare to talk back to us. I think you've really lived long enough. One of them glared at Ning Huan, whose face had turned black. After hearing the first elder's words, he immediately roared in anger. However, Lung Ruoxia and the rest did not take him seriously. Lung Ruoxia said impatiently, You drugged us and brought us here. What is your purpose? Don't tell me you're just here to bicker with us? In other words, he wanted them to quickly state their plans and stop wasting time. When Ning Huan heard this, she said very directly, Hand over the house and the Totoro, and he'll let you go. She was determined to get these 2 things. Originally, after finding an excuse to separate from Ning Xiao, She wanted to take the other 4 people back and seize the house. But she didn't expect to meet these people on the way. Suddenly Ning Huan's mood was great. This would save her a lot of trouble. The only regret was that they would not carry the house with them. Ning Huan thought to herself. At this moment, she still did not know that the house was a spatial-type divine artifact. Furthermore, even though she said that she would let these people go, in reality, she would never let Lung Ruoxue and the others go. Otherwise, wouldn't that be akin to letting a tiger return to its mountain? Of course, she wouldn't show such thoughts. However, Lung Ruoxue was well aware of her thoughts. After a faint smile, Lung Ruoxue said, I'm sorry, Miss Ning, I'm afraid you've miscalculated. We won't give you either of the 2 items you've mentioned. What did you just say? When Ning Huan heard this, she was so angry that her eyes turned round. The aura from her body exploded out. However, her cultivation as a god-tier master was nothing in the eyes of Lung Ruoxue, the 4 humans and the beast. Following that, he heard Lung Ruoxue's emotionless voice. I originally wanted to let you guys off, but who knew that you guys wouldn't appreciate it? Since that's the case, don't blame me for not giving you any face. Chengwu, make your move. After Lung Ruoxue had given her orders, Chengwu was like a shooting star as he pounced towards Ning Huan and the other 4. He was so fast that they did not even have time to react. In the blink of an eye, a black rope in Chengwu's hands had tied them up tightly. The rope was rather sturdy and extremely elastic. No matter how they struggled, they could not break free. When the 5 of them saw this, their eyes widened in disbelief and they cried out in shock. How is this possible? Aren't you all tied up? You want to tie us up with such an ordinary rope? Aren't you guys underestimating us too much? Chengwu said sarcastically. This is impossible. This is impossible. When Ning Huan heard Chengwu's words, she could not accept this fact. How did the situation change in the blink of an eye? The prisoner who was supposed to be tied up was now standing in front of them with a smile. And they had become the prisoner. Ning Huan couldn't take such a quick change. More importantly, she couldn't understand why these people were so weak. But now they were being held back. Could it be that they had been deceived? At the thought of this, Ning Huan's heart trembled, and then she was furious. How dare you hide your strength to deceive us? Ning Huan flew into a rage out of humiliation. When she heard Ning Xiao call the old man senior, and asked them to do the same, she didn't think much of it. She thought that Ning Xiao was only being polite, because she wanted to stay with him. Who knew that Ning Xiao, that damn guy, actually meant it? However, Ning Xiao had not told them about this. This fact made her hate Ning Xiao as well. However, when Lung Ruoxue heard Ning Huan's words, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Who was this person? He was the one who had neglected their strength, and now he was blaming them. No wonder people often say that when the forest is big, there will be all kinds of birds. Following that, Lung Ruoxue continued. We've never hidden our strength. It's your own eyes that are not good enough. Coupled with your identity as a member of the Ning family, you didn't put us in your eyes at all. Moreover, even if you knew that we were stronger than you, wouldn't you have attacked us because you were conceited? She would never believe this even if she was beaten to death. Although these people's strength wasn't good, with the identity of the Ning family, they probably wouldn't even put an ordinary reverent god in their eyes, let alone these unknown people. When Ning Huan and the rest heard Lung Ruoxue's mocking tone, they were silent for a moment. However, Ning Huan seemed to have gained some confidence and shouted out in a warning tone. You know we're from the Ning family and you still dare to treat us like this? Are you looking to die? Quickly release us and compensate me with that house and this Totoro. When this young lad's mood is good, perhaps I will be merciful and let you live. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. When Ning Huan said this, it was Lung Ruoxue and the rest turned to be silent. Chengwu cast a sympathetic glance at Ning Huan, who was obviously out of her mind. He smiled evilly and replied, Who said that we have to let you go just because you're from the Ning family? I'm telling you, your Ning family's identity doesn't work in front of us. If you didn't mention the Ning family, we might have let you go. Since you've mentioned that you're a member of the Ning family, then if we don't teach you a lesson on behalf of your Ning family's old ancestor, I'll feel a bit sorry for him. After he finished speaking, Chengwu rudely pulled one end of the rope and pulled the 5 people who were tied together into a dark corner of the house. What followed was the sound of punches and kicks, accompanied by waves of painful wails of both men and women. Arg! Damn it! I won't let you off! Stop fighting! Don't hit me! Ancestor, we were wrong! Screams and cries of apology continued to intertwine. Some people even called him Ancestor Chengwu. However, Chengwu wasn't happy when he heard this and shouted back. You've forgotten your roots and don't even recognize your own ancestors. What's the use of having you in the Ning family? After the roar, the sound of fists hitting flesh was even louder. Girl, I'm going to join in the fun too. At this moment, Song's claws were itching from the provocation. After he greeted Lung Ruoxue, he was like a bolt of lightning as he quickly ran to the corner of the room. Last time, he had let them escape. This time, no matter what, he would not let them off. He must let them know what it meant to be too happy to turn sad. Following that, even more tragic cries of pain and wails resounded through the clouds. After a long time, by the time Chengwu dragged the 5 people back to Lung Ruoxue and the others, they could no longer see the 5 people's faces. However, the 5 people were obviously still alive, but they were on the verge of death. The 5 of them were covered in blood, and their bodies and faces were covered in deep claw marks. Needless to say, this was definitely Tsong's doing. The green and purple marks on their bodies were probably Chengwu's doing. Seeing their incomparably miserable appearance, the Great Elder couldn't help but shiver. Oh my God! So brutal, so bloody. These people were really pitiful. The Great Elder's heart was filled with deep sympathy for them. However, they deserved it. They had clearly been given a chance, but they didn't know how to cherish it. Now they had even delivered themselves to the door. This time, he didn't want to give them any more chances, even if it was for the face of Old Man Ning. After looking at the 5 people who were half dead and on the verge of death, the Great Elder suggested, Shui-er, let's hurry on our way. Looking at Shui-er's expression, it was obvious that she had no intention of treating these people. Therefore, he was afraid that these people would not live to see tomorrow's sunrise. If these 5 people were to die in their hands, they would not be able to explain themselves. At that time, even if they were right, they would become unreasonable. Naturally, he did not want to see the fruits of Chengwu and Song's hard work go to waste. Yes. After listening to the first elder's suggestion, Lung Ruoxue nodded. It was time to set off. She had planned to stay for a night, and did not want to leave in a hurry. However, it seemed like it was better for her to meet her godfather as soon as possible. Chapter 2070, The Idol Effect. 1. After making their decision, the few of them traveled through the night. After a few rounds of teleportation, they finally arrived at the Ning clan's main city in the early morning. Ning Huan and the rest were half-dragged on the ground by Chengwu with ropes. Along the way, they left trails of blood on the streets of the city. They looked more and more pathetic, and were basically on their last breath. When he saw Ning Huan and the rest, the first elder expressed his deep sympathy for them. However, it was only limited to sympathy. He had no intention of helping them at all. Who asked him to be a famous weapon-forging master, who did not know how to refine pills. The great elder thought to himself in a calm and reasonable manner. After entering the Ning family's main city, they first went to Ning Hai's home. He planned to rest there for a while before going to the Ning family's main residence. When Ning Hai saw a man calling him Brother Ning, and calling himself Lung Ruoxue, he was in a mess. However, it was a good thing that his mental endurance was quite strong, and he also recognized evildoers, so he was only stunned for a moment and quickly returned to normal. However, his face still looked a little unnatural. It could also be said that he wasn't used to it. Sitting in the living room and looking at the curiosity on Ning Hai's face, Lung Ruoxue was helpless. After a simple explanation to Ning Hai showed great interest in Lung Ruoxue's gender change. However, Lung Ruoxue's simple words immediately made Ning Hai give up on the idea. Lung Ruoxue had asked if Big Brother Ning wanted to try as well. When Ning Hai heard this, he shivered and quickly shook his head like a rattle. There was a look of shock on his face. He was also a little afraid that Lung Ruoxua had really turned him into a woman, so he quickly changed the topic. Shui, you're here to see our ancestor, right? After asking, Ninghai realized that he seemed to have asked a stupid question. Moreover, calling a man Shui also made him feel very awkward. Yes. Lung Ruoxua nodded. Shui, I don't know why, but our ancestor has been in a bad mood recently, so the entire Ning family is in deep trouble. We have to be careful every time we go to the main house. Now that you're here, you have to think of a way to please our ancestor. Ninghai said with anticipation. I will. Lung Ruoxua promised with a faint smile. Of course, she knew why Godfather was in a bad mood, because she was the main culprit behind it. However, looking at Brother Ning's expression, she didn't dare to say anything. Otherwise, wouldn't the Ning family be so angry that they would eat her up? That's good. After hearing Lung Ruoxia's promise, Ninghai was relieved. Then he couldn't help but ask curiously, Shui, who are those guys outside? They. He was also a member of the Ning family. We met on the road. Lung Ruoxua laughed evilly. Arg. What did they do to you? When Ninghai heard that those bloody guys were also from the Ning family, he was shocked. He didn't know how those unlucky guys had offended Shui, but he believed that Shui wouldn't do that to them for no reason. They wanted to rob us and kill us. However, we almost killed them. Lung Ruoxua said with a smile. Even though she only said a few words, how could Ninghai not understand? However, he did not expect those people to be so bold. They dared to rob Shui and the others, and even wanted to kill them to silence them. This was really too. He couldn't even see through Shui's strength now, so how did those people dare to make a move? He couldn't figure it out. However, after Ninghai heard this, he still said, Oh, they deserve it. Then he reminded her, Shui, this is the Ning family's territory after all. Even if they do something wrong and anger you, the Ning family will speak up for them. So you must think of a countermeasure in advance. Don't be passive. I know. Since I dared to do this to those people, I naturally have full confidence. Lung Ruoxua said confidently. If it wasn't for her godfather's sake, she wouldn't have kept these people around. As for the rest of the Ning family, whether they would give them face or not would depend on her mood. In short, it was best for some blind people not to provoke her on their own initiative. Otherwise, they would have to bear the consequences. Then I'm relieved. Ninghai said with a smile. In fact, he also felt that he was being a little naggy. How could Shui not handle this matter well? Thinking of this, he felt a little embarrassed. After arranging rooms for Lung Ruoxua and the others, he went straight to the Ning family's main residence. At this time, the Ning family's main residence was immersed in a cold current. Ninghai walked on the small path of the main residence, feeling depressed. The main purpose of his visit this time was to see the second elder. The second elder saw Ninghai in his study room and asked him directly, What's wrong? Is there something you need? This kid wouldn't come to the temple without a reason. When he had nothing to do, he would never step into the main residence. Even when he wanted to arrange for him to enter seclusion in the main residence, he had been refused by this guy. Thinking of this, he was full of anger. It must be known that for many people in the Ning family, this was a good thing that they could only dream of, but this stinky brat actually did not cherish it. Hearing the anger in the second elder's words, Ninghai said directly, Shui and the others are here. Lung Ruoxua? Where is she? Hearing this, the second elder immediately stood up from his chair and looked at Ninghai excitedly, his eyes burning. He's at my house. Seeing the second elder's murderous look, Ninghai doubted whether he had made the right decision to come here. However, the second elder should be on Shui's side, so he felt that he should tell the second elder about the matter first, in case they were not prepared. Why is he in your house? Just let them come to the main residence. The second elder said somewhat anxiously. That little ancestor had finally come. If she had not come, he might have had to disobey the orders of the family head and directly go to the door to find her. They came this morning and are now resting. Ninghai said calmly. When the second elder heard Ninghai's words, his eyes widened and he was secretly annoyed. Still resting? That little girl had angered the master of the family. and caused the Ning family to be in deep waters. It was fine if she didn't come earlier to pacify them, but now that she had come to the Ning family's divine realm, she actually didn't come directly to the main residence. This fact made him feel very suffocated and panicked. Although he really wanted to rush to Ning Hai's house immediately and have a good talk with that little girl, once he thought about how sharp-tongued Lung Ruoxia was, he gave up and suppressed his anger as he asked, "When does that girl plan to visit?" "Once they've rested enough, they should be coming. But second elder, you'd better be mentally prepared, because the Ning family has provoked them." Ning Hai said it very implicitly, but the second elder was anxious when he heard it. What's going on? Who would dare to provoke that little girl? The second elder heard Ning Hai's words and asked in surprise. But at this time, he also understood that Ning Hai came mainly to tell him this. It seemed that he didn't dote on this kid for nothing. He knew to inform him first when there was an important matter. That's right, he was quite satisfied with Ning Hai's actions. Chapter 2071. The Idol Effect, 2. The leader is a woman called Ning Huan. There are 4 men and 1 woman. Ning Hai said. Ning Huan? I've never heard of it, it's a branch family. The second elder asked calmly. After he finished speaking, his face revealed a look of relief. It was just a branch family, so it didn't matter. Yes. Ning Hai repeated what he knew so that the second elder would have an idea. I understand. Go back and tell that little girl to come to the main residence immediately after they've rested enough. The second elder nodded and reminded him. All right. Yes, Ning Hai replied. After saying all this, he turned and left the main house. After Ning Hai left, the second elder immediately went to the forbidden area in the back mountain. When he saw the family head, he immediately told the news of Lung Ruoxia's arrival to his old grandmadam. However, when he saw that the old grandmadam did not have any reaction, he could not help but be a little dumbfounded. It shouldn't be like this, right? The second elder knew very well that although the family head had always said that he didn't want to see that stinky girl, in reality, he had always been hoping that the girl would come and coax him. Why was it that now that he knew that she had come, he was actually indifferent and didn't have much of a reaction? This wasn't normal. The second elder couldn't help but wonder in his heart. After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't understand why his ancestor's reaction was so calm. This didn't match the plot he had thought of in advance. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but remind her. Master, that little girl Schwerer is here. Let them come. Why didn't you come in yourself? Do you want me to go to the main entrance to welcome her? The master of the Ning family said unhappily. In fact, he had been looking forward to it for a long time, but he had been angry and had no way out, so he really couldn't bring himself to go and see that stinky girl. Moreover, he couldn't give that girl a chance to take advantage of him. If he gave in this time, what if she kept hiding things from him in the future? He couldn't lay down this foundation. The master of the Ning family had a good plan in his heart, but when he heard the second elder say that the other party had not come yet, his calm face showed signs of cracking. He was so angry that he stood up from his chair and shouted at the second elder with a dark face. What are you saying to me if you didn't come? Did she just want to anger him to death? Wretched girl. Stinky girl. Why didn't he come to see him immediately after coming to the Ning family's divine realm? What was he dawdling about for? The master of the Ning family secretly sighed, the resentment in his heart growing a lot, and the chill in his body also caused the surrounding temperature to drop abruptly. The second elder felt the cold temperature, and his body trembled. Then in one breath he repeated the reason why Lung Ruoxia did not come to the main residence. At least, he felt that the girl did not come to the main residence immediately because of this matter. After hearing this, the master of the Ning family became even angrier and directly ordered the second elder. Just kick Ning Huan out of the Ning family. We don't have such an embarrassing descendant. You bastard. The master of the Ning family was furious. That stinky girl had finally come, but there was still a blind Ning family member making trouble. Wasn't this clearly trying to make him passive? This fact had also determined that Ning Huan and the others would not have a good ending. Even though the second elder had already predicted the fate of Ning Huan and the rest, He still could not help but ask after his patriarch had given his instructions. Only drive them out of the Ning family? Wouldn't that be too easy on them? Expel them from the Ning family and let that stinky girl deal with them. In addition, you must warn the Ning family members not to always cause trouble for me. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences and be expelled from the Ning family. The master of the Ning family said very seriously. In fact, he wouldn't be so angry if the people of the Ning family had offended someone else, but who asked them to offend that girl? Based on his understanding of that girl, if he dared to be biased towards his own descendant, she would definitely not acknowledge him as her godfather in the future. Therefore, he naturally had to stand on his precious goddaughter's side without any principles. In any case, there were many people in the Ning family. One more didn't matter, and one less didn't matter. If some clansman said he was biased, he didn't care. He was biased, so what? Master, I'll handle it immediately. Seeing that the family head had finished giving orders, the second elder immediately said. After he finished speaking, he turned around and left the forbidden area in the back mountain without looking back. As he walked, he couldn't help but tremble and keep on sucking in his stomach. The Ning family's forbidden area was really getting colder and colder. However, if that girl came, the temperature would probably increase. The second elder returned to the main courtyard and gathered all the elders at home for a short meeting. After explaining the situation to the elders, he sent someone to Ning Hai's house and reminded Ning Hai to let Lung Ruoxue and the others come to the main residence as soon as possible. The elders of the Ning family were waiting for Lung Ruoxue and the others at home. However, after waiting for an entire morning, they did not see any sign of them. Suddenly, the elders could not sit still. In the meeting hall, the second elder sat in his seat with a frown, not saying a word. The other elders were whispering to each other. Finally, an elder said, "Second elder, Lung Ruoxue is not here yet. I'm afraid the family head is getting anxious from waiting, right? Why don't we go and personally invite him? For the sake of the master, for the sake of the gloomy atmosphere in the Ning family." The elder who spoke felt that it was better to quickly invite Lung Ruoxue and the others to the main residence. Otherwise, his own old grandmadam would probably fly into a rage again. That girl has her own ideas. If she doesn't take the initiative to come, it's useless even if we invite her. The second elder thought for a moment and said, after dealing with Lung Ruoxue for so long, he believed that he more or less understood Lung Ruoxue's way of doing things. That girl had not come to visit yet, so she was probably still angry. Thinking of this, the second elder had a headache. The master was angry, and so was that girl. How could they let the people stuck in the middle live? One had to know that they were living in deep waters and suffering every day. They were so worried that they were about to cry. Unfortunately, they could not command either of these two people. So, the second elder was depressed. But if we take the initiative to invite them, it will show our sincerity, right? The elder said. The second elder thought about it, and felt that what she said was right. Who cared if that girl was angry or not? They couldn't lose a piece of meat on their trip. Maybe they could also ask that girl's opinion. Moreover, if that girl saw them go, she might be too embarrassed to not come again. With this thought in mind, the second elder immediately made a decision to invite everyone. This way, he would be more sincere. Then the Ning family elders, led by the second elder, went straight to Ning Hai's house. When Ning Hai saw such a lineup, his eyes almost fell out. Oh my God! Why are there so many elders? With so many of them, their family would be frightened. Ning Hai thought this way and simply blocked the door, without a sound. He didn't ask them why they were here, nor did he invite them in. Seeing this, the second elder couldn't help but pat Ning Hai's head and scolded him with a smile. Aren't you going to invite us in to sit? What are you doing? He naturally thought that Ning Hai was scared. Who would have thought that Ning Hai didn't want to invite them in? If they knew what Ning Hai was thinking, they would probably cry. Chapter 2072, The Idol Effect 3. Please come in, elders. Ning Hai was helpless. It seemed that he couldn't stop these people. At this moment, he was really regretful. Why did he run to the main residence to tell the second elder that Shuer was here? Wasn't this just looking for trouble? However, it was too late to regret now. He summoned the elders into the living room. Ning Hai prepared tea and snacks for them, and then he hurried to comfort the panicked family. The elders of the Ning family sat in the living room for a long time. Not only did they not see Lung Wuxia, but they also did not see Ning Hai for a long time. This fact made everyone extremely depressed. Zups. Why were they so unpopular? Ning Hai finally remembered them when it was nighttime. When they came to the living room again, Ning Hai said with an apologetic face, "Fellow elders, I'm sorry. I had some matters to attend to and had to leave." He went out. Hearing this explanation, the elders were completely depressed. They came to the house without a master to chat with, but the master even left them in the living room and went out to do business. What the hell is this? The resentful eyes of the elders made Ning Hai feel guilty. In fact, he didn't go out at all. However, he didn't know what to talk to these elders about, so he had to lock himself in his room. More importantly, Shui and the others had not come out of their room. He was afraid that the elders would ask him to rush them, so he had to leave them in the living room. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, he knew that he couldn't continue to sleep, so he reluctantly came out of the room. Shui and the others haven't rested well? The second elder didn't think that Ning Hai was hiding from them. He thought that he really had something to do. So after a little depression, he didn't care anymore. Then he asked about the thing he was most concerned about. It should be. They haven't come out since they entered the room. Ning Hai said honestly. Ning Hai, then can you help us invite her? We've been waiting for her for a long time. As expected, an elder made this request. Ning Hai heard this and said with an embarrassed expression, "Elders, it's not that I don't want to help you get Shui out, but I can't do anything. Shui doesn't like people disturbing her when she's resting. If you insist on me waking her up, she'll vent her anger on you and even decide not to go to the main residence. Wouldn't that be more of a loss than gain?" Hearing this, all the elders were silent. That's right. That girl who didn't play by the rules. Could she really do such a thing? All the elders were shocked. It seemed like they could only wait. Let's just wait. The second elder decided after some thought. Hearing the second elder's words, Ning Hai's hanging heart was finally put at ease. Right at this time, a slightly mocking voice sounded in everyone's ears. "There's no point in you waiting, go back quickly." Hearing this, everyone immediately looked around, but they couldn't find the owner of the voice. Who's talking? The second elder couldn't help but ask. The person had come silently and they didn't even notice it. This fact made the second elder extremely shocked. His heart was in turmoil, unable to calm down at all. It's this grandpa who's talking. Below. Hearing the voice, the second elder looked over and found that a Totoro with snow-white fur had appeared in the living room. The Totoro was small and exquisite, and its fur was elegant and luxurious. At this moment, the Totoro was looking at everyone present with disdain. Totoro! The second elder was shocked. Recently, the most famous incident in the divine realm was the destruction of the God Lord's estate by a Totoro. Although the people in the God Lord's estate had tried their best to keep this news a secret, it still spread uncontrollably throughout the entire divine realm. It was said that the Totoro was as white as snow and was exceptionally beautiful. Could this Totoro be that one? Although the second elder was very suspicious of this, he was 80 to 90% sure that this Totoro was the legendary one since it could come to them without alerting anyone. At the thought of this, a sea of fire immediately ignited in his heart, and his gaze towards Tsang became more and more fervent. "Excuse me that. Are you the Totoro that destroyed the Divine Master's residence?" The second elder hesitated for a long time, but in the end he couldn't win against the curiosity of the little person and asked, "Old man, although your strength isn't that great, you have good eyes. It was me who destroyed the Divine Master's estate." Song nodded and praised the second elder. However, the second elder definitely didn't want to hear such a compliment, so he immediately wilted when he heard Song. AI. He was a reverent god after all. However, in the eyes of this Totoro, his strength was not that great. However, compared to this one, his strength seemed to be really insufficient. At the very least, he would not be able to destroy the Divine Master's estate. Therefore, To be praised by such a powerful senior, he could only express his honor. However, all the other elders, including Ning Hai, could not calm down after hearing Song admit that he was the powerful Totoro that destroyed the God Lord's estate. All of them were stunned with their mouths half open. These people didn't come back to their senses for a long time. Seeing this, Song's disdain for them deepened. It seemed that only the old man sitting at the head of the table had a better mental quality. The others all needed to be trained. Azure couldn't help but think. Then, it wagged its big furry tail and stared at the second elder. After a long time, the second elder admitted defeat and looked away. However, he would still steal glances at Song from the corner of his eyes from time to time. After this, Totoro had successfully destroyed the Divine Lord's estate and left the Divine Lord helpless. He had become the idol of most people in the Divine Realm, including himself. However, they only dared to worship him in their hearts and did not dare to say it out loud. Otherwise, they would be targeted by the people of the Divine Lord's estate in the next second. However, now that they had seen their idol with their own eyes, he was still extremely excited. Seeing the expression on the old man's face change from shock to depression, and then to excitement, Azure was rather calm. In fact, he knew why the old man was like this, but he would not be proud, because it had never felt that what it had done was anything great. Hence, Song was very generous and confident as he allowed them to worship him. After a long time, the elders regained their senses one by one. When they regained their senses, their gazes turned from disbelief to fervent worship. Some of the elders couldn't help but swallow their saliva, wishing they could hold the cute Song in their arms and cherish him. Unfortunately, when they thought of Song's strength, no one dared to make a move. "Don't worship me. I'm a legend." Glancing at the expressions of the elders, Song said arrogantly, "Yes, yes." When the elders heard this, not only did they not feel that Song was arrogant, but they also felt that this was a matter of course. Some elders even took the initiative to ask, "Senior, please give me an autograph. I'll hang your name up and worship it every day." This elder's words received a unanimous response from the other elders. Seeing them so enthusiastic, Song felt a little embarrassed. After thinking for a long time, he smiled and said, "Since you're so sincere, I'll agree to it." Hearing this, all the elders immediately took out paper and pens, fighting to be the first to hand them to Song. However, Song looked at the pens they handed over and felt a little vexed. It wasn't very convenient to hold a pen with his claws now. Seeing Song's awkward situation, an elder tactfully gave him a black ink. Seeing this, Song gave that elder an appreciative look. At that time, he was so happy that he almost raised his tail if he had it. When the other elders saw this, they all stared at the elder with envy and jealousy. However, they were completely ignored by the elder. Following that, Song ordered the elders to place the paper on the ground. Then a paw-paw sound was heard. After a few sounds, small plum blossom-shaped claws appeared on the snow-white paper. These were its signatures. After it signed its name, Azure told them to keep the paper and not lose it. After all, this was the first time it had signed for someone. It's so memorable. Song's heart was very happy. However, when the elders saw the paw prints on the white paper, they were at a loss. But on second thought, it was a Totoro in front of them, so it was normal to use paw prints to replace its name. Moreover, these were the paw prints of the Totoro that destroyed the Divine Lord's residence. Most people would not have the chance to obtain it. With that thought, they carefully put away the paper with the blue claw seal, and then continued to stare at Blue with fire in their eyes. "Don't look at me like that. I'll be embarrassed." Azure couldn't stand their fiery gazes and couldn't help sighing. This was the idol effect. It seemed that being an idol wasn't easy. Azure was quite satisfied with the little fans of the second elder. Of course, if their gazes weren't so passionate, it would be even more satisfied with them. Thinking of this, Azure couldn't help threatening, "I'll get angry if you keep looking at me like this." Upon hearing this, the elders immediately sat up straight and retracted their gazes. They only stared at the ground in front of them. Chapter 2073. Super Bright Light Bulb. 1. Although the elders did not dare to look sideways because of Song's words, they would still sneak glances at Song from time to time whenever they had the opportunity. Song was helpless about this. Adjusting his happy mood, Song immediately said to the elders in a very serious manner, "You can all go back. Don't wait here. We're tired from the journey and have been frightened, so we must rest well." Eh? Poor girl. Poor me. What a pitiful house. Why are we being targeted? Song's words became more and more resentful, and the elders gradually felt a chill down their spines when they heard it. A deep sense of desolation rose in their hearts, and all the elders trembled. They couldn't help but shiver, and all of them cursed in their hearts. That damn Ning Huan, he actually caused them such a big trouble. How preposterous. However, who would believe that Lung Ruoxue and the rest were frightened? All the elders were clear how strong Lung Ruoxue's heart was. How could those who dared to be with her be timid? And this Totoro, it even dared to destroy the Divine Master's estate. How could it be a coward? Although Tsong was their idol, the elders felt that they had to be realistic on this point. It would be strange if these people were frightened. In fact, they thought that Ning Huan and the others should be the ones who were shocked. However, since Tsong had said so, they couldn't refute him. After all, they had to give their idol some face. Therefore, the unlucky ones could only be Ning Huan and the others. At this moment, all the elders had the same opinion. At this moment, the second elder spoke on behalf of the other elders. "Then I wonder when Shui-Er and the others will be able to rest? I can't explain this clearly." Song spread out his two little claws and said very irresponsibly, Can we trouble Senior to help us remind Shui-Er?" The second elder discussed. "It's not that I can't help you remind Nio, but what benefits do I get?" Song asked with a faint smile, but he couldn't help but think in his heart that he wouldn't do a losing business. Although this was just a simple matter, there was money to be earned. It would be a waste not to earn it. However, the moment it said this, the elders were immediately thrown into confusion. This would affect his image too much, wouldn't it? How could the strong always mention benefits? However, looking at Song's calm and matter-of-fact expression, they felt helpless. After that, the second elder could only sincerely say, "As long as Senior is willing to help us remind Shui-Er, we'll take care of all the fish you eat in the future." "Fish? I don't like to eat fish." When Song heard this, he said with slight dissatisfaction. The second elder was stunned. Didn't Totoro like to eat fish the most? Why didn't the one in front of her like it? Then, what does Senior like to eat? After a pause, the second elder continued to ask, but he was a little uncertain in his heart. "Senior is Senior. Don't you guess what Senior is thinking? You bastard. Do you think him a foodie? I like money. A treasure. Do you understand?" When Azure heard the second elder's words, he couldn't help but roar in anger. Although he liked good food now, food was enough to satisfy him. So this definitely couldn't be his benefit. Thinking of this, it secretly blamed the second elder of the Ning family for being so insensible. No wonder this old man could only be ranked second. The second elder once again looked at the small and cute Azure in a daze, countless black lines sliding down his forehead. It seemed like this was a greedy Totoro. He didn't know how much money could satisfy it. He was a little worried. Seeing the second elder's depression, she also did not intend to make things difficult for him, and said with good intentions, "It's just a reminder service. I won't ask for much. Just 10,000 top-grade crystals will do. Of course, I don't mind if it's a treasure of the same value." After saying this, Azure focused on the second elder, waiting for his reward. When the second elder heard this, black lines appeared on his forehead, and cold sweat started to pour out. 10,000 top-grade crystals was just a reminder? Wasn't this price a little too expensive? In his opinion, this was a matter that could be easily resolved, but this powerful senior actually opened his mouth and asked him for 10,000 top-grade crystals. This was simply, when the other elders heard this, they felt that the price was not low. However, they blindly worshipped Xiaotsong. After thinking about Xiaotsong's identity, they felt that the price was reasonable. After thinking about it, they all sent a voice transmission to the second elder, asking him to agree. Seeing this, the second elder could only nod in agreement. Senior, we agree to this price. We'll have to trouble you. The second elder said very courteously. No problem, I've got the money to remind you. Azure said with satisfaction, hee. This money was too easy to earn. However, the second elder's mouth couldn't help but twitch when he heard this. This guy was a master who wouldn't let go until he saw the rabbit, right? Although he thought this, the second elder still took the initiative to hand a small white jade box to Song. Song glanced at it, and saw a 1,000-year-old ginseng inside. Not bad, it was definitely worth more than 10,000 top-grade crystals. It was very satisfied. Then, it put away the small white jade box, and gave the second elder a look that said it was worth teaching. It then left the living room with elegant steps. Seeing Song leave, the elders didn't stay any longer and directly left Ning Hai's house. Although they had lost a lot of money this time, they had not come in vain. They were still satisfied with this. On the way back, the elders suddenly remembered that they had forgotten about Ning Huan and the rest. This time, they had intended to personally tell Lung Ruoxue about the outcome of the clan's punishment towards Ning Huan and the rest. Unfortunately, they did not get to see them. However, this was not a big deal, so they quickly felt relieved and walked briskly back to the Ning family's main residence. After Song left the living room, he went straight to Lung Ruoxue's room. After entering the room, it quickly occupied its favorite spot, Lung Ruoxue's arms. Song ignored the cold glares from the side and said to Lung Ruoxue as if he was presenting a treasure. Girl, I've earned money. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, the corners of her mouth twitched before she said, Congratulations, hee. Naya. Here, this is my gift to you. Song threw the small white jade box to Lung Ruoxue without any hesitation. Then he lay in Lung Ruoxue's arms and closed his eyes. When the evildoer at the side saw this, he was so angry that his eyes were wide open. He released even more cold air from his body. When Lung Ruoxue saw this, she was extremely helpless. Shue. The demon glared at Lung Ruoxue with a face full of hidden bitterness. His pitch-black eyes were filled with grievance, and he was hesitant to speak. Freak. Lung Ruoxue helplessly lowered the demon's head and stole a kiss on his pink lips. The demon's heart trembled. Just as he was about to deepen the kiss, an untimely sneeze rang out. Instantly, the demon's face turned black from anger. Chapter 2074. Super Bright Light Bulb 2. Damn it. The demon was filled with hatred. He couldn't take it anymore and directly grabbed Song, who was in Shui-Er's arms, and threw him out of the open window. With a swoosh, Song was thrown out in a parabola. Ark. Song. Upon seeing this, Lung Ruoxue looked out of the window worriedly. The demon pulled Shui-Er into his arms in a domineering manner and gritted his teeth. Don't worry about it, it won't die. Alright then. In front of a beauty. One couldn't blame Lung Ruoxue for forgetting the azure after seeing the beauty. It was simply because the demon's expression was too unsightly. Hence, she could only apologize to Azure. Seeing that Lung Ruoxue was no longer concerned about that annoying Totoro, the demon hugged Shui-Er even tighter in satisfaction. Then he lowered his head and slowly kissed Shui-Er's tender and alluring pink lips. Arg. What a pervert. Lecherous wolf. The demon had just touched Shui-Er's lips when a shocking roar resounded through the clouds. Instantly, everyone's attention was attracted. Where's the pervert? Where's the pervert? Someone in the courtyard asked loudly. It was Chengwu's voice. In Nyo's room. Azure said confidently. The person who heard the roar and ran out of the room was stunned and then fell silent. Things seemed to be a little troublesome. At this moment, everyone hated themselves for running out of their rooms. It was obvious that they knew the pervert that Song was talking about. Everyone was suddenly embarrassed. After racking their brains to think of all kinds of excuses, they fled the courtyard in a sorry state and hid in their rooms. Seeing this, Song revealed a deep look of disdain. A bunch of cowards. In the silent night, this sound was exceptionally clear. Lung Ruoxue, who had been staying in the room and listening to the commotion outside, couldn't help but burst out into laughter. Looking at the evildoer's dark expression, she thought to herself, Song is really good at playing tricks. This time, He has completely offended the evildoer. Sigh. If this man and beast really became like fire and water, the one who would be in trouble would probably be her. When the evil demon who was already furious heard Shui-er's chuckle, he became even angrier. He wanted to cut Songda into 8 pieces and throw him into the sea to feed the fish. That fellow. When I have the chance, I must teach it a lesson. I must let it know that trouble comes from the mouth. I must let it understand why flowers are so red. Just as the demon was thinking about how to deal with Song jumped in through the window again. Then, it lay on the table closest to the two of them and stared at the demon with a provocative look. Big pervert. I will destroy you in the name of justice. Hearing Song's words, cold sweat and black lines appeared on Lung Ruox's forehead once again. Where did Song learn these nonsensical words from? Wasn't this teaching the child the wrong things? Yes. In her heart, Song was just a child. Even though Song had existed for countless years, she felt that Song was very innocent. However, ever since they had known each other, Song would always say things that would drive people crazy. Hence, Lung Ruoxue concluded that someone had taught Song the wrong things. Otherwise, how would her house's Song know about these messy things? In reality, this was definitely Lung Ruox's way of thinking. No matter what, her own child was good. If he wasn't good, he would be taught bad by others. It definitely wasn't her child's problem. Hence, she had never thought about it. This was the nature of Song, who wanted the world to be in chaos. Sensing Lung Ruox's thoughts, Song immediately turned into a pitiful little thing when he faced Lung Ruoxue. He looked at his future master pitifully, causing Lung Ruox's heart to soften. Then, she took the initiative to pull on evildoer's sleeve, indicating that he should not be calculative with Song. The demon was a little angry, but he still listened to Shui-er's suggestion. However, his eyes were shooting daggers at Song. Keep acting. Keep acting. Let's see how long you can act. When Shui-er isn't here, he'll take care of you. After making this decision, evildoer no longer paid attention to Cold's provocation. He continued to hug Shui-er tightly, wanting to share his feelings with her. However, Cold would always interrupt when the two of them were feeling affectionate. Girl, I still haven't reminded you to go to the Ning family's main residence as soon as possible. I'm afraid someone can't wait any longer. Azure said with a smile. Yes, I know. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Girl, when do you plan to go? Azure asked. Tomorrow. Lung Ruoxue said after some thought. Oh, what time is it tomorrow? Azure continued to ask. Hearing Song's questions one after another, Lung Ruoxue was depressed. However, the demon was even more depressed. This was because both of them could tell that Song was just trying to find a topic to talk about. To put it bluntly, this big light bulb didn't intend to let the two of them express their feelings to each other. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue looked helplessly at the evildoer whose eyes were spewing fire. Then, with a change of mind, she brought herself and the evildoer into the bracelet. If this continued, the demon would probably go crazy. The moment he saw Lung Ruoxue and the evil man disappear together, Song knew that he had been abandoned. Bad master. How could he abandon it? No. It would never allow such a thing to happen. It wanted to be the light bulb between the two of them, and not let them be alone. Thinking of this, Azure roared into the void. Qingju. Green vessel. Come out now. If you have something to say, then say it. A clear voice rang out in the room. It was Green Vessel's voice, and it sounded rather impatient. It was obvious that it did not want to bother with it. Take me into the bangle. Song said directly. I'm sorry, you can't come in now. Qingju refused. Why? It's not like I've never been in there before. Azure's eyes widened, and he shouted in displeasure. You also said that that was in the past. My strength is still so low now. If you come in, you will hurt me. So I can't take the risk. Qingju said, leaving no room for discussion. I won tea. I'll control myself. Azure promised. That won't do either. You and that demon hate each other. If you fight in my space, what if you hurt me? So you'd better give up on that idea. Qingju still refused. After he finished speaking, his voice disappeared. No matter how Ren-sung called him, he didn't respond. Instantly, the Siqi stopped. The fur on its body stood on end, its eyes were wide open, and its sharp claws were scratching the wall in anger. The next morning, when Lung Ruoxue and the demon came out of the room, they saw that the originally snow-white walls had deep claw marks. Song Ziyi was not in the room and Lung Ruoxue started to worry. Evildoer, could Azure be angry? Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. I wonder, that guy's mental endurance was strong. It's also very resilient, so it won't be provoked by such a small matter. Trust me. The evildoer promised. Although he didn't like Schwer to care about that annoying fellow, Schwer was his master after all. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.